Thank you. Doing okay, doing okay. Just getting my day started here in New York. That was my wake up call. That's right. That's right. Thank you so much. Yes. Yes.
Here we are. So, my apologies, friends. I'll have to redo the introductions. Welcome you all to the YaarAnād virtual Baiṭhak series. Sat Sri Akal, Assalamu Alaikum, Namaskar, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. I went on and on and on, and I just realized that my microphone was off. Of course, Sonny could hear me, but not you all. I know that I'm now audible. Welcome to the 194th YaarAnād virtual series Mēlā. This is the 194th edition, 33rd episode of the second season. And it is my pleasure to be in conversation with Sonny Singh. Sonny Singh is a trumpeter, singer, and activist. He's joining me live from New York, where he resides. He's a Sikh American, as you can see, musician, educator, and activist based in Brooklyn. He grew up in North Carolina, of course, singing kīrtan at the gurdwarā, later shifting his musical energies towards ska, reggae, funk, and punk rock and bhangra. And I was very keen to learn about all of them. In fact, we all will together bug him to educate us about the difference with ska, reggae, funk, punk rock, and bhangra. We won't let him go scot-free. In 2003, he co-founded the political rock band Outernational, as if International had done its innings, which went on to record an album produced by Tom Morello. Since 2008, he has lent his trumpet and voice to Red Baraat, a Lal Baraat, of which he is an original member. Sonny Singh is in the process of completing Chardi Kala, his debut solo album produced by Ozomatli's Wil-Dog Abers. The title track was released in February 2021 to critical acclaim. Mitar Pyare Nu, Sonny's first single, premiered on NPR's as All Songs Considered in Rolling Stone India. A couple of notes about the series, friends. This is YaarAnād Virtual Baiṭhak series is an extension of the World Music Heritage series conceived and produced by yours truly, the one and only Baldeep Singh, which is me, and not Sonny, of course. Sonny, I'm talking about me, huh? So, and YaarAnād, of course, series season 2 marks the 400th birth anniversary of Guru Tegh Bahadur, the 9th Guru of the Sikhs and the unparalleled martyr in history. For he sacrificed his life to protect a faith he did not even practice, the Hindu Dharma. Giving his life to safeguard the Hindu Tilak and Janeu, the 9th heir of Guru Nanak embodied a fearless commitment to the freedom to choose and practice one's own faith. On an intimate note, if I may, he was a prolific Pakhavaj exponent, a predecessor of mine. In that line of knowledge, he was a poet and a singer whose musical contributions include Rag Jai Javanti. I will now introduce Sonny in Punjabi, which he has told me strictly not to speak with him. I'm kidding. I mean, he told me no, and I said, I'm going to now speak with you in Punjabi. So, dosto, mere jani dushmano, ਪਿਆਰਿਓ ਤੇ ਗੁੱਸੇ ਵਾਲਿਓ, ਜੀ ਆਇਆਂ ਨੂੰ। ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ, ਮੈਂ ਬੜੀ ਖੁਸ਼ੀ ਹੈ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਸਨੀ ਸਿੰਘ ਹੋਣਾ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਮੁਲਾਕਾਤ ਕਰਾਉਂਦਿਆਂ ਹੋਇਆਂ। ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਹੈ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ, ਸਲਾਮ ਵਾਲੇਕੁਮ ਹੈ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ ਤੇ ਸਤਿ ਕਰਤਾਰ। ਅਤੇ ਇਹ 194ਵਾਂ ਮੇਲਾ ਹੈ ਰਾਂਗਲੀ ਸੱਥ ਦਾ ਅਤੇ 33ਵਾਂ ਐਪੀਸੋਡ ਹੈ ਦੂਜੇ ਸੀਜ਼ਨ ਦਾ। ਅਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਹਮਵਾਰਤਕ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਹਾਂ ਟਰੰਪਟ ਵਾਦਕ, ਗਾਇਕ ਔਰ ਐਕਟਿਵਿਸਟ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹਨਗੇ, ਬੜੇ ਜੁਝਾਰੂ ਤਬੀਅਤ ਰੱਖਦੇ ਨੇ ਸਨੀ ਸਿੰਘ। ਇਹ ਨਿਊਯਾਰਕ ਤੋਂ ਜੁੜੇ ਹਨਗੇ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਬਰੁਕਲਿਨ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ। ਇਹ ਇੱਕ ਸਿੱਖ ਅਮਰੀਕਨ ਹਨਗੇ, ਇਹ ਸੰਗੀਤਕਾਰ ਵੀ ਹਨਗੇ, ਇਹ ਅਧਿਆਪਕ ਵੀ ਹਨਗੇ, ਪੜ੍ਹਾਉਂਦੇ ਵੀ ਨੇ, ਅਤੇ ਐਕਟਿਵਿਸਟ ਹਨਗੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬਰੁਕਲਿਨ 'ਚ ਵੱਸਦੇ ਨੇ, ਜਿਵੇਂ ਮੈਂ ਅੱਗੇ ਜ਼ਿਕਰ ਕੀਤਾ। ਨਾਰਥ ਕੈਰੋਲਾਈਨਾ 'ਚ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਜੰਪਲ ਹੋਇਆ। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕੀਰਤਨ ਗਾਵਿਆਂ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਫਿਰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਕਹੀਏ ਸੰਗੀਤਾਤਮਕ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬਹਾ ਸੀ, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ska, reggae, funk, punk rock ਅਤੇ ਭੰਗੜਾ ਵਰਗੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ genre ਹਨਗੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਫਿਰ ਆਪਣੀ ਤਵੱਜੋ ਲਾਈ ਪੂਰੀ। 2003 ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਇੱਕ ਪੋਲੀਟੀਕਲ ਸਿਆਸੀ ਰੌਕ ਬੈਂਡ ਸੀ ਆਊਟਰਨੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਕਰਕੇ, ਯਾਨੀ ਕਿ ਗੈਰ ਰਾਸ਼ਟਰੀ ਕਹਿ ਲਓ ਜੇ ਮੈਂ ਇਹਦਾ ਤਰਜਮਾ ਕਰ ਸਕਾਂ, ਜਿਸ ਨੇ ਰਿਕਾਰਡ ਕੀਤੀ ਸੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਐਲਬਮ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਟੌਮ ਮੋਰੈਲੋ ਕਰਕੇ ਬੜੇ ਵੱਡਾ ਨਾਮ ਹੈਗਾ, ਉਸਨੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਡਿਊਸ ਕੀਤੀ ਸੀ। 2008 ਤੋਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਟਰੰਪਟ ਹੈ ਔਰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਬਿਗੁਲ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਹੈ, ਉਹ ਇੱਕ ਰੈਡ ਬਰਾਤ ਕਰਕੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਬੈਂਡ ਹੈਗਾ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਹ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਤੋਂ ਉਸਦੇ ਮੈਂਬਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ, ਅਤੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕੰਮ ਕੀਤਾ। ਇਸ ਵੇਲੇ ਇੱਕ ਚੜ੍ਹਦੀ ਕਲਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟ ਹੈਗਾ ਦੇ ਨਾਮ 'ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਹ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ, ਔਰ ਓਜ਼ੋਮਾਟਲੀ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਵਿਲ-ਡੌਗ ਏਬਰਸ ਹੈਗਾ, ਉਹਨੇ ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰੋਡਿਊਸ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈਗੀ, ਉਹ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਇਸ ਨੂੰ। ਅਤੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਟਾਈਟਲ ਟਰੈਕ ਹੈਗਾ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਫਰਵਰੀ 2021 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਰਿਲੀਜ਼ ਹੋਇਆ, ਉਹ ਜਿਹਦੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਅੱਜ ਝਲਕੀ ਵੀ ਦਿਖਾਵਾਂਗੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ, ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਪੂਰਾ ਹੀ ਸੁਣਾ ਦਈਏ। ਉਹ ਮਿੱਤਰ ਪਿਆਰੇ ਨੂੰ, ਉਹ ਕਾਫੀ ਉਹਦੀ ਚਰਚਾ ਹੋਈ। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਨੀ ਦਾ ਉਹ ਪਹਿਲਾ ਸਿੰਗਲ ਹੈਗਾ, ਜਿਹੜਾ NPR's ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆਲ ਸੌਂਗਸ ਕੰਸੀਡਰਡ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ, ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦਿਖਾਇਆ ਗਿਆ, ਪ੍ਰੀਮੀਅਰ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ। ਤੇ ਰੋਲਿੰਗ ਸਟੋਨ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਨੇ ਵੀ ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਦਿਖਾਇਆ। ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪਹਿਲੀ ਵਾਰ ਜੁੜ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸ ਦਿਆਂ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਦੂਜਾ ਸੀਜ਼ਨ ਹੈਗਾ ਯਾਰ-ਅਨਾਦ ਵਰਚੁਅਲ ਬੈਠਕ ਸੀਰੀਜ਼ ਦਾ, ਇਹ ਗੁਰੂ ਤੇਗ ਬਹਾਦਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੇ 400ਵੇਂ ਪ੍ਰਕਾਸ਼ ਪੁਰਬ ਨੂੰ ਸਮਰਪਿਤ ਹੈ। ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਦੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਯਾਦ ਮਨਾ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ, ਆਪਣੇ ਤਿਲ ਨੁਮਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਜੋ ਅਰਪਣ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਦੇ ਚਰਨਾਂ 'ਚ। ਇਹ ਗੁਰੂ ਹਰਗੋਬਿੰਦ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਅਤੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਮਾਤਾ ਜੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਚਰਨਾਂ 'ਚ ਮੁਬਾਰਕ ਹੈ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਸਗਨ ਸੀ। ਉਹ 400ਵੀਂ ਬਹਾਰ ਜੇ ਮੈਂ ਕਹਿ ਸਕਾਂ। ਗੁਰੂ ਤੇਗ ਬਹਾਦਰ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਬਾਰੇ ਕੀ ਆਖਾਂ, ਇੱਕ ਸ਼ਹਾਦਤ ਹੈ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੋਈ, ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੋਈ, ਜਿਸ ਨੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਸ਼ਹਾਦਤ ਦੇਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਹੋਏ, ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਧੜੇ ਨੂੰ ਬਚਾਉਣ ਖਾਤਰ ਜਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਰਾਜ ਵਾਸਤੇ, ਆਪਣੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਵਿਸ਼ਵਾਸ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਜਾਨ ਕੁਰਬਾਨ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੋਵੇ, ਆਪਣਾ ਸੀਸ ਬਲੀ ਚੜ੍ਹਾਇਆ ਹੋਵੇ। ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਤਾਂ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੇ ਅਦਭੁਤ ਵੱਡੇ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਹੋਰ ਮੱਤ ਨੂੰ, ਜਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਪੰਚਮ ਪਿਦਾਈ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਨਾ ਹਮ ਹਿੰਦੂ ਨਾ ਮੁਸਲਮਾਨ, ਅੱਲਾ ਰਾਮ ਕੇ ਜਿੰਦ ਪ੍ਰਾਨ, ਕਿ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਨਾ ਕੋਈ ਹਿੰਦੂ ਨਾ ਮੁਸਲਮਾਨ, ਯਾਨੀ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਕਰਤਾਰ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ। ਧਰਤੀ ਮਾਂ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਇਹਦੀ ਕੁੱਖ 'ਚੋਂ ਜਨਮਿਆ ਹਰ ਬੰਦਾ ਉਹ ਇੱਕੋ ਹੈ, ਇੱਕ ਜਾਤ ਹੈ ਇਨਸਾਨ ਦੀ, ਮਾਨਸ ਕੀ ਜਾਤ ਹੈ। ਸੋ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਨੇ ਤਾਂ ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਆਪਣਾ ਸੀਸ ਅਰਪਣ ਕੀਤਾ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਅਤੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਹੱਕ ਹੈ ਆਪਣਾ ਮਾਰਗ ਚੁਣਨ 'ਤੇ, ਜਾਂ ਨਾ ਵੀ ਚੁਣਾ ਤਾਂ ਵੀ ਮੇਰਾ ਹੱਕ ਹੈ। ਔਰ ਉਸ ਵਾਸਤੇ, ਉਸ ਹੱਕ ਦੀ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤੀ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਣਾ ਸੀਸ ਅਰਪਣ ਕਰਨਾ ਪਿਆ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਮਾਰਗ ਚੁਣ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ, ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਬੇਖੌਫ ਬੇਸ਼ਰਮ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਸ 'ਤੇ ਤੁਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ, ਉਹ ਪੈਂਡਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਤੁਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ, ਡਗਰ 'ਤੇ ਚੱਲ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਉਹਦਾ ਰਾਖਾ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਮੇਰਾ ਉਹ ਗੁਰੂ ਤੇਗ ਬਹਾਦਰ ਹੈ। ਸੋ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਤਿਲਕ ਅਤੇ ਜਨੇਊ ਦੀ ਰਾਖੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਉਸ ਵੇਲੇ ਕੀਤੀ। ਪਰ ਉਹ ਇੱਕ ਮੁਹਾਵਰਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਅੱਜ, ਜੇ ਮੈਂ ਅਕਸਰ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ, ਜੇ ਅੱਜ ਹਲਾਲ 'ਤੇ ਵੀ ਔਖਿਆਈ ਆਏਗੀ, ਨਮਾਜ਼ 'ਤੇ ਔਖਿਆਈ ਆਏਗੀ, ਤਾਂ ਗੁਰਸਿੱਖੜੇ ਫੇਰ ਖੜੇ ਦਿਖਣੇ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ ਨੇ। ਅੱਜ ਵੀ ਜੇ ਤਿਲਕ 'ਤੇ ਕੋਈ ਆਂਚ ਆਏ, ਅੱਜ ਵੀ ਜਨੇਊ 'ਤੇ ਕੋਈ ਧੱਬਾ ਲੱਗਣ ਦਾ ਲਾਉਣ ਦਾ ਯਤਨ ਕਰੇ, ਗੁਰਸਿੱਖੜੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਤੇਗ ਬਹਾਦਰ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਿੱਖਿਆਰਥੀ ਹੋਣਗੇ ਉਹ ਖੜੇ ਦਿਖਣੇ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ ਨੇ। ਆਓ ਆਪਾਂ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਿਲਸਿਲਾ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕਰੀਏ ਸਨੀ ਸਿੰਘ ਹੋਣਾ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕੋਲੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਸਾਜ਼ ਬਾਰੇ ਬੜੀਆਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਮੇਰੇ ਮਨ 'ਚ ਤਾਂਘ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਪੁੱਛਣ ਬਾਰੇ। ਅਤੇ ਸਨੀ, ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰ ਫੇਰ ਜੀ ਆਇਆਂ ਆਖਦਾ। ਵੈਲਕਮ ਟੂ ਦੀ ਯਾਰ-ਅਨਾਦ ਵਰਚੁਅਲ ਬੈਠਕ ਸੀਰੀਜ਼। It's such a pleasure. We've spoken about having you join in, but you've been traveling, you've been busy with your publication, you were in Los Angeles and so on and so forth. So I'm so glad that we are able to meet today.
Me too. It's really an honor to be here.
You're only kind. You had to hear the introduction almost twice. Well, I didn't really get through to the Punjabi one when I got the calls and messages that, my microphone is off because you are hearing on Skype from the microphone, which is, in fact, I should make sure that the signal is from the same microphone so that if I'm off, at least the guest would be able to immediately say, hey, you need to put your mic on. Because I sometimes don't see the comments and don't receive calls, but I don't apologize ever, but you had to, if you had any doubt about yourself, you got to hear your own introduction in English twice.
And then I got to try to understand it in Punjabi. It was a good exercise for me.
ਹੋਰ ਕੀ ਹਾਲ ਚਾਲ ਹੈ ਤੇਰਾ?
Sab theek. Chardi Kala.
You just reminded me of the Punjabi part. I'd forgotten about it, so you asked for trouble now.
That's about as far as I'll go, probably.
I played a prank with Wajiha Outernational, Tribal Gulabo is the other day, when I made her render all the 35 Punjabi alphabets. So that was my little naughty, well, not a tantrum, but it was just a tease to that. I was almost tempted to do that with you too.
I'm
So tell
nervous.
us about the trumpet. I mean, to have a Sardar trumpeter and an activist and an educator in Brooklyn. Brooklyn is notorious anyway. It's notorious for its colors and for
Mhm.
its, sort of, if I may say, federalism, for its sovereign nature.
This is true.
All kinds of creatures live there, from demons to the gods. Well, gods here, but sometimes when I'm there, yes, the gods are also there. But tell me about your journey with how. When did you discover the instrument trumpet?
Yeah, it's not the most exciting story, unfortunately. I don't come from a family of musicians at all, but I went to a public school in Charlotte, North Carolina, where in the fifth grade, I guess I was probably 9 years old or so. Um, Pretty much most kids at the school either joined band, orchestra, or choir. So it had a decent music program. So it's just something that kids did in school. So it made sense to join band, and I didn't really know much about any of the instruments. I knew my brother played clarinet, so I knew I did not want to play
Oh, I
clarinet
see.
because I needed to do something different. And I asked the band director, "How about saxophone?" And she looks at me and she's like, "Oh, your hands might be a little bit small for saxophone." At the age of 9. So I saw the other shiny instrument in front of me, trumpet. I said, "How about trumpet?" And she said, "That's a great choice." So it was completely arbitrary. I didn't really know anything about the trumpet. Um, and for better or for worse, it's still with me 30 years later. So I trumpet is one of those instruments. I don't think I've ever met a trumpet player that doesn't have a bit of a love-hate relationship with the instrument. But maybe that's the case for all musicians. We all have tumultuous relationships with our instruments, whatever they are. But it's one of those instruments that I think by the time I got to high school, by the time I was a teenager, it was just a very important part of my expression as a human being, as an artist, as someone who was dealing with a whole lot of racism, a whole lot of bullying. It was an outlet for me. It was a way for me to channel my breath into something resonant, into something positive, into something productive. And, at first it was mostly in the form of Western classical music because that's what I was learning in school bands. So it wasn't until later that I began exploring other styles of music with the trumpet.
So you're talking of an as an activist. So, and you're voicing your breath through the trumpet. So, which means people can't actually make out when you're praising them or you're abusing them, right? So, if I were to ask you to say, "Oh, kutteo," how would you play that? Or haramdeo. Kutteo means dogs.
Yeah, I got that.
Haramdeo is like, "You bastards." So, but
Yeah, I
it's
know all the
musical.
I know all the bad words, at least in Punjabi.
You know them, acha. So Haramdeo is such a musical word. Haramdeo. People will think must be a great song, right? So how would you? So you, as an activist, you do all the abuses even in English and Punjabi, and nobody will know. They think it's music, right? How does it
No,
work?
it's true. I think it's a very expressive instrument, and I strongly believe that music can express a whole range of emotions without any words at all, right? So I can be playing a revolutionary anthem that has no lyrics to it, right? Of course, it's going to be open to interpretation, but what we do as musicians is we channel feelings, right? We channel emotions. That's what we do. That is distinct. I mean, that's what all artists do, right? That is distinct from simply speaking or trying to convince someone of an argument, or even community organizing, or all the other ways that we try to mobilize people towards a common goal. But with art, it's all about feelings. So I think all of that can be communicated. Obviously, different people are going to take different things away from the sounds that they're hearing, but I think it's very possible to channel. I mean, and I definitely do it. I've played shows in some of the most difficult moments, right? You know, I remember getting on stage the day of the Oak Creek massacre in Wisconsin, where 7 Sikhs were killed at the gurdwarā in Wisconsin by a white supremacist. I remember being in the hotel that morning, seeing CNN, seeing the coverage, and then going to sound check and playing a show. So what that audience felt coming from my trumpet was very different than the audience, you know, the night before heard in a different city, right? They experienced a different emotion coming from this instrument. Even in the context of joyful music, I think there can be a lot of rage expressed, and I do feel like the trumpet for me has been a great instrument to be able to express that range of emotions.
Yeah. Okay. On that note, you know, we've just lost. I mean, every life is, I was very moved by the verdict even for George Floyd,
Yes.
which is historic in a way in Minnesota to have a white police officer convicted of murder, 3 counts. That's unbelievable. And the extraordinary presence of mind and bravery of that 17-year-old girl, Natalie, I wonder if I've got the name right, who actually stood for nearly 10 minutes to record.
Yeah.
And what a tape, what a record. In spite of being threatened, that's bravery. And come what may, and without that video, would not have happened. Now we've had another attack at the FedEx facility where 4 members of the Sikh Sangat, Sikh congregation, were also killed. They were massacred. If you would be kind enough, would you like to play something like you were mentioning about the rage or the hurt that you felt, the melancholy that you were drowned in, if I may? Would you like to play something for those who were lost at the FedEx facility?
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to do that.
Wow. That was very, very beautiful. Thank you for that.
Yeah, of course.
And so you were mentioning about your brother's clarinet and your learning. So how old were you when this instrument came in your hands?
9 years old. Yeah, I was in 5th grade.
As early as that. So you were singing kīrtan while also learning trumpet. Is that right?
Yeah, and the kīrtan I was doing was, you know, very rudimentary. I wasn't studying in any formal way, but like a lot of Sikh kids, I was learning at camps and these sorts of things. So very simple shabads that, we would do when I was that young, we didn't even have a gurdwarā in our city, but we would gather at each other's houses, a few Sikh families, and even some non-Sikh families would come, other Punjabis, and us kids would often do the kīrtan. So I didn't study in any formal way, but it was really the first music that I was playing, and then trumpet came into my life as well.
And what was the early education like? So how do you, let's say I'm 9 years old, and what would I be taught? How do you...
On trumpet?
I don't even know the 7 notes on this instrument. Would you mind
Much more
showing
than 7
me?
notes. Basically the first difficulty for anyone learning trumpet is just how to make a sound come out of it. It's not like piano or guitar where, there's just a sound just by making contact with it. So the mouthpiece here, if you just blow in it, it's not about blowing, it's about buzzing. So learning how to, and it's hard to think back to 5th grade and what that process was like, but I do remember it took a while to even figure out how to make a decent sounding note come out of it.
I see.
Because it requires buzzing your lips, and then that resonance kind of goes through the mouthpiece, and then as you know, it only has three valves.
Yeah.
So with 3 valves, you're creating all the notes that are possible. So that's an indication that the difference in notes is coming more from your airflow and what's happening here than what's happening here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So it's just
a little bit challenging.
It's
My
a
parents did not.
glorified whistling.
Yeah, I guess so.
But this is amazing.
Yeah,
three keys. Yes, go ahead. Please continue.
Now, I was just going to say, I don't think my parents enjoyed those early years very much. I used to practice in the bathroom because trumpet's loud and not very pleasant to listen to when you're first learning.
Did you Lord put the shower on and make a lot of water sounds and then play, or what?
Yeah, just it was the most secluded place that I could find in the house.
And so tell us about the instrument, if you can show us the instrument.
Mm-hmm.
In the sense that you said that there are 3 keys, that's it.
Yep.
So, and if you just use the 3 keys for me, that basically means 3 notes, is it? Or maybe 6, because you can open would be one sound and close will be another.
No, I mean it plays every note, right? I mean,
so without pressing the
key.
key. Okay. Let me start. Let me go back to the Stone Age, or maybe the Brass Age, when the instrument would have been, the first trumpet would have been made. So without pressing the keys, what is the music that is possible on this instrument? This is cheating. This is cheating. How can you do that? You're not pressing any key.
And then
No. Hold on. Don't even touch the keys right now. You just sang a few notes without pressing anything.
I mean, you can sing with your voice without pressing any keys. Same thing.
Yeah, that's true. No, but
it's just about like, the airflow.
Much is happening in the body. So a lot is happening here, and you're just doing with the lips, nothing with the vocal cords, right? So can you just show it again?
It's lips and it's air. It's the speed of the air.
Just play something for us all without no keys. You cannot touch the keys, otherwise I will accuse you of cheating.
Okay, sure.
I don't believe this. That's amazing. That's like the bigul without the trumpet. So that's how they do the Narsinga and others. I see. So exactly you actually don't need the keys. So now tell us, what are these keys for?
Well, so just like I played all those notes with no keys, then with pressing the first valve. So I mean, it just gives you every possible note you'd need to play. It's all possible.
Oh,
Yeah. So I can play every note that you can play on a piano, right?
yeah,
And
but how
probably
many
a few extras.
without the keys you went into the higher octave? So you're doing like 1.5 octave without the just when you the example that you maybe you can do more, but what you demonstrated. So can you show us the octaves in terms of without pressing the keys, and then show us what the possibilities are with this keys? What all in
Yeah,
terms of does it help in the
so
range?
range has nothing to do with the valves.
Oh, I
That's
see.
all here. Like how low or high I'm playing is all airflow and lips.
I
The
see.
keys is just to get all the in between notes.
So
Yeah.
when we were just doing the sound check earlier, you touched a note which is low, like low sa. Can you show us the range, like if you can?
Sure.
Yeah. This.
I mean, so in terms of high, that's depends on the player, right? Every player has a different range. So some players can go much higher than I can go. The lowest sort of proper note on the trumpet is a E. So an octave below. So that's the lowest note on trumpet, but then you can do what's called a pedal tone, which you can kind of control here and go even lower. So that's not really something that trumpet players use functionally in music, but it's more of something to loosen up your lips.
I see.
And then with range, it's as high as a player can go. I usually stop at about B flat or B natural up high.
But
So
how do you? I mean, how do you loosen up? What do you mean by loosen up your lips? In we Sardars only know how to bump into a wall and it loosens up your lips.
well, it's a very physical instrument, and lips, just like any other part of our body, are a muscle, right? So when you've been playing a lot, your lips are feeling fatigued. Then playing those pedal tones, those low notes, it's sort
Oh,
of like stretching after exercising.
interesting.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
please show us the range. Yes. So
sure. So you heard the low. So that's kind of as high as I go comfortably. I mean, I can squeeze out higher
fair
notes,
enough.
and then
But I mean, the
salsa
range of the
trumpet
instrument.
players are going
No,
way
no, no.
higher than that.
Yeah. So, do you practice scales when you're just practicing and not the music? Can you
Yeah.
show us some regimen that you do now? How do you sort of like if I sit down, etc. So we do all of this, right? I'm just giving an example. My voice is all dead right now. But what is the regimen
Yeah.
like? How do you, when you sit down and before you
Mm-hmm.
are having a notation in the front or music that you're going to perform, it's just you and the instrument and your honing, your polishing.
Sure.
How do you do that?
Yeah. I mean, some of my daily routines for brass instruments, long tones are critical. So just holding notes, as little vibrato as possible. So one exercise that I do every day is this one. And then and so on and so forth down the chromatic scale.
No, so on and so forth. Just play it all, please.
Oh, sure. That's the last one. That's again that lowest E on the trumpet.
I see.
Yeah.
And
So that's one I do every day.
Something you're pulling. What is the
Oh,
left
yeah.
hand doing?
That's an old habit. That's a good habit. It's for intonation.
I see.
Yeah, basically when you're pressing this third valve, everything tends to go a little bit sharp. So pulling out a little bit when you do that makes it a little flatter.
So you're adjusting actually the notes,
adjust the tuning.
I see.
Just very subtly.
You're just making the length of the it's almost like you're flying. When you're flying very fast, the wings can go hot. So the plates, it's almost like the shuttle flying, etc. I see.
Yeah.
So
exactly. And there's another slide here for not the microphone here for tuning.
I see. You
can pull out, push in.
Can you show us the tuning? Like even if it goes out of tune, in the sense just to show the range of playing. No playing. Okay.
Sure. Yeah. Like, so this is pushed all the way in. So that's a B flat, and then if I pull way out.
Oh, so it's not you just set one time.
Yeah.
I see. I see.
So that's a full half step just from pulling out. Yeah, this you're not going to notice as much. Like you can hear it a little bit.
Yeah. So it's almost like bringing some movement, like andolit, little swing in a way. I see. But that's amazing.
Yeah, but for that kind of style, mostly we use our lips for bends and things like that.
I see. So in terms of, I want to come back to the exercises that you were, that was a very beautiful, very, the kind of pace and the notes. And what else is a part of a regimen of a trumpeter?
Sure. Everyone's got different things. Lip slurs are another important exercise for all brass players. So that's moving between notes without tonguing, which is so it's how to explain this. So I can make a note just by pushing air like this, or I can make a note by hitting it, right? Versus right. So lip slurs are where you're doing without hitting it. So an exercise I do every day is this one. So that's all happening here. And then so that really loosens things up. And there's lots of different kinds of lip slur activities that we also do.
Like?
Yeah. So and all the way down the chromatic scale.
That's it. It's difficult. It's not easy.
Right. Yeah. It's a lot of jumping with just using this and air.
That's amazing. And what are there scales you play? What is the genre in trumpet that you play? Is it like is it the Western classical or pop or reggae? What's the genre of the trumpet that you play?
I don't know. I'm not sure. The
one that we don't know, we call it khichdi in Punjab.
Say it again.
In Punjab, things that we don't know, we call them khichdi.
Yes, that's definitely the genre that I play. You've heard my music. You can tell me what you hear.
Yeah, no, but jokes apart, the training that you underwent when you were like learning, etc., the years that you do. I mean, what you do, how you use is one thing. that one sort of gets attracted to one form of singing. Sometimes one bumps into friends whom you just cannot ignore, and you form a group, etc., and you play along with the kind of music that collectively is the thing. But in terms of training, when you were training yourself, was it a part of certain pedagogy, which would be Western classical music, or if you can tell
Definitely.
about that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to be transparent, I was not formally trained really. I learned to play in school band. So obviously there's some training there, but I didn't have any private instruction growing up. For better or for worse, ultimately I'm the trumpet player that I am. But the school band that I was always a part of, elementary school, middle school, high school, the primary language was Western classical music for sure.
I see.
So reading sheet music, and playing from the sort of European canon, and then also in high school marching band, which is these big military style. I think we had something like 180 people in our high school marching band, and we'd play at the football games. And so that certainly wasn't classical music. I guess you could call that more sort of pop, brass, something. I don't know. But overall, very much Western in its nature, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
And even at the Darbar Sahib, Akal Tak, when we have the savari of Guru Granth Sahib being, carried to Darbar Sahib, there's the Narsinghas are being played, the very popular trumpets. And have you had a look at those instruments, or what do they play? They just play random? No, it's not. I don't think there is any logic as such. Or is there?
Yeah,
did you find anything?
I've heard it before, but I've certainly never been able to play one. And yeah, I think it's just
they're not
sounds,
really
right?
they're not really trumpeters. They're not Narsingha players. So in the south, the other traditions in India, tribes even, where some of the very long trumpets are played, and they have a logic. They have dhuns, etc. They were almost like, even if it's a ritual, there is something played, and that's one of the things that has saddened me, that things have gone. I have a memory from my elders, of course, that the Narsingha players were like ruthlessly wonderful. They played the dhun which carried Maharaj, and there was there were ragis and nadis, not ragis as such of singers of Gurbani, the ones who knew ragas. They were
sure.
They were maestros. They were not just ordinary. They were not just blowing the pipe in a way. There was a difference between trying to light a fire in a tandoor or a chula for cooking. And it is another to light the fire in somebody's heart, somebody's being. And those guys, I said, were those who could light up lamps, unlit lamps. So, but did you look at that, the playing at the Darbar Sahib? Did you get a chance to hear? Can you emulate something? Do you remember something? What they play?
I
nothing
in terms
that
of that particular instrument, I don't recall enough. I've been there. I
don't have a memory of
before.
Anything. Yeah, just nothing.
But it's been so many years. Yeah, it didn't stick with me.
Even to me, it's nothing memorable that comes to my mind. But I thought that, being your subject, if you looked at, maybe you had a closer look than I had. I never.
Yeah.
I was just thinking aloud right now. So, in terms of exercises to look at, to finish that segment on the regimen of what the instrument is, introduction of the instrument, are there fast patterns that you also practice to get the fingers and the breath right? You mentioned about the slow and the medium tempo, and then second, are there long, to master? Is it a breath? The soothe, as we say, when we do singing as well, we work on, keeping the long breath as long as one can, but without making the voice waver and shake and quiver. It has to be a wonderful soothe, like a thread, straight pull. So in terms of breadth and in terms of speed, if you can kindly share how is
Yeah.
this instrument worked on?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, speed, it's usually if I'm working on a particular piece, then I'm but certainly scales also. Playing scales quickly. And then there's a lot one can do in terms of letting the fingers guide it versus letting the articulation, for example, it's like F major scale, right? So the second is then I'm doing this, and then so there's a third thing besides the fingers. There's the tongue also. So there's also double and triple tonguing, which is something that allows you to do something like this. Right, so you can hear it's a little sloppy, but or you let the fingers do it. So it's a smoother kind of thing. So mostly major minor scales is how to get the fingers loose. And on your other question, there's another exercise that I do every day that a really great. I had one lesson with this pretty legendary brass instructor, Lori Frink, based in New York, who has since passed. And her whole thing is approaching a brass instrument like almost doing calisthenics. You do this kind of stuff, you stretch, like really approaching brass that way as well. And it's really all about building stamina. Mm-hmm. And long tones, as I mentioned, is a big part of that. And the exercise that I do every day to build that strength that she taught me is basically I'm going up the chromatic scale, playing long tones, and I'm never letting the trumpet leave my mouth. So I'm breathing only from my nose. In between notes, I'm breathing from my nose and leaving this right here. So then my lips don't get a moment to relax. Wow. And I remember the first time she taught me this, I couldn't do it. Like I just couldn't do it. It seemed so easy. It seems like the simplest exercise to do, but we're so used to getting that even split second to breathe, our lips get a break. But in this exercise, our lips don't get a break. And so it's really about, you're just holding, it's sort of like you're lifting that barbell and then you just have to hold it right there. And you can't put it down for a second. You just have to hold it there for the whole exercise. So it's kind of like that.
Amazing. Can you demonstrate?
Sure. I mean, again, it's not going to sound interesting or difficult, but I can show you. And then I'd go all the way up and then do it twice, basically, with again not moving the mouthpiece from my mouth. So it's a great exercise.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So thank you very much for this, because it was a mystery for me. I mean, I must have, of course, played some in school and all that, but I wouldn't know, a cat from an elephant. I'm like that. I had a crash course in oboe playing. I'm a fan of these instruments. I've enjoyed them, especially as a Fauji kid as well, military kid, as an ex-aviator as well. So we all have grown up with listening to the sounds, every time there's a trumpet going here or there, melancholy or happy occasions, ceremonial occasions, this trumpet has been a part of that. And in terms of, you mentioned about some of the revolutionary anthems. When you're an activist part, I remember you mentioning that briefly. Do you remember, can you play one or two things that you play at times when you're as an activist? Are there particular anthems? What are they?
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of the music that I'm making, the music that I'm writing, the music I'm most interested in making, I want it to be a catalyst, right? I want it to push push the listener towards reflecting on what they're doing in the world and wanting to change the world for the better. As we know, there's injustices steeped in our societies, and I feel like music and art is such a powerful vehicle to push folks towards change, to raise awareness about issues, and inspire those who are already engaged in the struggle, but also hopefully inspire those who aren't yet. So I very deliberately try to bring that perspective to my music. And the music that I'm making right now is deeply inspired by Gurbani, as well as other sort of revolutionary Punjabi poetry, like that from the Ghadar movement. And for me, this is a deeply revolutionary tradition. So when I look at the message that our Guru has given us, and I think about our current context, and see such a contradiction, right? See such a contradiction between maybe not even a contradiction, but a consistency in the kind of tyranny, the kind of oppression that was around in our Guru's time, and the kind of tyranny and the kind of oppression we see today. There's so many similarities. So I think this message is just so relevant still today. And of course, politically, I'm inspired by lots of other revolutionary music beyond Gurbani Kirtan as well. But I do think the revolutionary power of Gurbani is often underestimated, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like people think, I think a lot of people think about Kirtan as something where you're just sort of like sitting and reflecting quietly, and I think that's a part of it. But in so much of it, I think it's also a call to action, right? And that's what the Sikh way is, right? It's not just about meditating. It's not just about sitting and doing Japji Sahib or Jap Sahib, right? That's an important part of our process. But if we're not acting in the world, I don't think we are living up to what it really means. Like this vision and this identity that our gurus gave us, right? What the Khalsa is a body of revolutionaries. So for me, that when I think about what that means for me as a human being and a Sikh, and then I think about what that means for me as a musician, that's always the question on my mind, right? How is this going to be a part of changing our society for the better?
But that's totally different than the colonized idea, summation or of Sikhis, ke kirt karo, vand chako, te naam japo. Bas. Three things.
Yeah, whitewashed. Yeah, whitewashed Sikhi, right?
So do hard work and just work, labor.
Keep your head down.
Then you earn, so you should do some charity and just share what you have. And then spare time, just do bandagi. Don't look up what is happening in the world. Don't react to it. Don't be a revolutionary. Don't be a reactionary. Nothing. Just relax. So what part of Gurbani you think is revolutionary, and are there lines that are dear to you that you use or to sing as part of?
I mean, in some ways, I would almost ask the opposite question: like, what part of Gurbani is not revolutionary, right? When we think about what really this message of Ekonkar, right? Like, what does it really mean for this oneness to be, this divine oneness to be in all people? I think that's really at the heart of what Sikhi is, right? The divine is in all. There's no division between the creator and creation, right? That's one and the same. So so if you're a Dalit being exploited and oppressed for generations, that's sort of blasphemy to Sikhs, right? That practice and that ideology even exists, right? So that's a call to action. Simply Ekonkar is a call to action, right? Avaleyala Nure Upaya, right? That divine light is in all. That's a revolutionary message. It's a very basic message, but one that is deeply a call to action. Some of the shabds that I've been recording and sort of imagining with my own kind of musical palette and the genres that have influenced me. Koi bole Ram Ram, koi Khudaye, right? Again, a very, very simple line, right? Some call the divine Ram, some call the divine Allah, some call the divine Khuda, some say Gusain, right? Like these, again, very simple message: the oneness of the divine. You can call the divine by many names, but we're talking about the same thing here, right? These are different paths to that same oneness. And then we see, what's happening with this Hindu nationalist government today. Direct contradiction to this very simple message that Guru Arjan Sahib had for us, right? Direct contradiction. So for me, looking at that Shabad, I wanted to record that Shabad, or a version of it, something inspired by that Shabad. I don't sing all the lines of it, but I sing a few lines from it with my music. And for me, when I was thinking about how I wanted to release that, once I saw the CAA and NRC, being implemented in India, and this massive protest movement against it, led by working class Muslim women in Shaheen Bagh, I was like, this is what this Shabad is about, right? What is happening with this BJP RSS agenda is a direct contradiction to our Guru's message. So it makes all the sense in the world to me for this Shabad to be hopefully a wake-up call for folks to remember that actually it's our responsibility. It's our responsibility as Sikhs to be standing with our Muslim brothers and sisters who are being directly targeted by Hindu fundamental or Hindu nationalist agenda. And of course, we're implicated too, right? Of course, the Modi agenda is a very anti-Sikh agenda as well. So for me, it was a call to action, and I made a music video that highlights that particular struggle.
Is your activism Indian politics related, or you're based out of Brooklyn, you've grown up there, or are you responding to the political issues in your country? You're an American, right?
Yeah, I was born and raised here. Yeah, I mean, when I came up as an activist as a teenager, I wasn't very familiar with what was happening in South Asia. I wasn't following those issues very much. So I was much more politicized by social movements in the United States. But those social movements were tied to what was happening around the world. So for me, a big political awakening was in the late 90s with the sort of anti-globalization, the anti-imperialism movement of the late 90s that really tied struggles for racial and economic and environmental justice in the U.S. to the rest of the world. Right, I was active in the labor movement here. I was active in a Students Against Sweatshops organization in college. So I saw these issues as deeply global. But it wasn't really more deeper into my 20s and 30s that I began to learn more about the situation in India. And I think the rising tide of Hindu nationalism is what inspired me to become more engaged with what was happening in India, because the diaspora, right, upper caste Hindus in the United States were funding that movement, right? So I was seeing how they were organizing, the VHPA, the sort of ideological arm of the RSS in the U.S., was organizing youth, Hindu youth in the United States. They were organizing Hindu summer camps, seemingly apolitical, that were really kind of recruitment grounds for this really toxic Hindu supremacist ideology. So that's when I was probably in my early to mid 20s by this point when I started understanding what was going on in the diaspora. And then it was sort of a call to action to me that we need to be organizing in the diaspora connected to what's going on in India against this rising tide of Hindu nationalism. And of course, the more we learn about Sikhi, right, the more I understood our history, the more I understood the context in South Asia and Punjab today. And I'm certainly no expert, but I'm deeply inspired by, of course, the unprecedented and relentless wave of protests led by the farmers in Punjab. And I've been engaged in a lot of the solidarity protests happening here in the U.S. Sometimes I bring an instrument with me to those protests. But there's many issues here that in the U.S. that don't directly have to relate to South Asia that I've been involved in for a long time as well.
Is the Red Baraat then the left? Is the communist the left Baraat, or is it just color red because of like the wedding, like the Baraat and the color red? Is it the left? Is it the left Baraat? Leftist Baraat? Progressive Baraat?
I think so, but I think it's open to
No, no, I
interpretation.
don't want to interpret. I'm asking for because we have Lal Salam in, when I fought the election myself, there was the left parties decided that I was the guy they wanted to support. So I had the Lal Salams, to my procession. I just need to let my cat in.
Yeah, sure.
And so that's very interesting to hear that. Yeah.
Hmm.
And now to come to the utopic idea of Sikhi. You've spoken about Hindu nationalism. I am, my bloodline has been a witness from the times of Guru Nanak in the current context. I see fundamentalism as an issue everywhere. So my activism, I'm center of the center. But our center of a very different kind, not the normal center position, center politics that is seen. I bring the Guru Nanaki perspective, Kabiri perspective, Baba Farid's perspective, Bhagat Jain. I bring that perspective into that. I represent that line of thought. Guru Ramdas says, "Hum harisyon tada kiya," that my dhara, my groupism, my faction is my caucus is with the Allah, with the Karta, with the one who's omniscient. So others have done with their tribes. Like George Bush called a kind of nativism with the Republican the other day. So Guru Ramdas says he's reflecting. Everybody like Guru Tegh Bahadur, whose 4th centenary we are marking on 1st of May. He says, Ram gayo, Ravan gayo, janko bahu parvar. The Ram, Lord Ram, the son of Dashrath, has gone, has died. Ravan also died, and they both had massive clans, extraordinarily big holdings, familial, political, religious holdings. They have gone, their families have gone. Nothing is permanent. The world is impermanent, and there's nothing, nothing that stays. Sikhi, as I see, is a near extinct faith. Sikhs don't know what Sikhi is, and I'm saying very responsibly. They don't know what their politics no more. I mean, for example, you speak of BJP. I have problems with everyone in the sense that there is a wonderful move within the RSS and BJP where they say that they are fighting against caste politics, and they would speak about a low caste, background or bearing president of India, or that Narendra Modi he sold tea, as a child, and he's come up the ranks and so on. And there's so many people whom they have brought up and empowered politically. There's good, bad, and ugly everywhere. When I look at, for example, I was one of the first guys who gave a video. I wanted to put a face behind my voice. When Muhammad Akhlaq was murdered, for me it was intimate because his son is an Air Force officer. He's an airman. And the Air Chief Marshal had to come up and give a statement that, he was, some people, even members of parliament, tried to brand him, as if he was a thief. They said that he had stolen meat. And then the Air Force chief came out and says, no, he was not a thief. He did not. He is the father of an airman, and the Indian Air Force knows how to protect its families. So, Shiromani Akali Dal, the so-called Sikh political party, was part of the NDA. My fight with them was that you are representing a minority community and you're not standing for the other minorities. So there are good people I know in all parties, and I know idiots, really idiots and butchers in all parties as well. So politics, the way it is not as simple as it seems. it's easy for me to look at only the bad of the others and ignore the bad of my own, if at all, if I have a faction, that is. So it's a complicated situation. For example, the farmers' protest and agitation. It's easy again to condemn the government of India. It's easy. But the point is that constitutional democracy, where I'm playing this, where I am, center of the center, it's an elected government which can enact laws. Even the ordinance which can be passed, it is a stupid idea, but that provision is a constitutional, allowance. And only I cannot pass an ordinance. It's worth not even the price of the paper I'll write on it, right? I'll write on. Only a prime minister or the ruling government can come up with an ordinance also. The fight is that just because you can do it, it doesn't mean that you should do it. You should take everyone along. So that is where the politics can be for, negotiations can be had. But again, to go overboard from all sides, that is where I think which is hurting, your country, the United States. I called them Trump. I called it Trumpistan for 4 years. I called it, no longer a United States. I called it a disunited or whatever. Not, there were some names I gave in the sense. So it's interesting how you are responding. You talk of Sikhi. I mean, the Bani, for example, it seems it's Main Kaman Mera Kant Kartar. Guru Amar Das says, I am the bride. Mera Kant, my groom, is the Kartar, is the creator. Jeha Karaye, Teha Kari Singar. I adorn myself, directed by the one Kartar, that is. I ornate myself as my Kartar, your Kartar, that Kartar, the only Kartar, so desires. Now, this is revolutionary because when you look at it, even from a socio-political, socio-religious, socio-cultural angle, everybody wants you to adorn as per their choices. For example, a Akali Dal Badal fellow would want you to be ornate in certain values, political ideas, social ideas, etc. A BJP hardcore would want to ornate you in different ideas. RSS would still be different because they say, we are not a political party, we are different. They have their own ego, their own humility. Like BJP guys, they say, we have our own humility, our own ego. And likewise, a left party would have their own ego, their own idea of humility. They would want. But Guru Amar Das is saying, I am ornate as per the direction and desire of the Karta, not of anyone else. This is the revolutionary idea that I refuse, I reject any ornamentation that does not come, that is not universal. Now, but how many people understand? People just close their eyes and say, oh, I'm a bride, their idea is just that. People have forgotten the idea of what Bani is doing. It is transforming a crow into a swan. But we have a Baraat of crows only, with a granth here and an instrument here and a mala on the neck. We are a Baraat of crows in a way. So the transformation is not happening. We are not drinking the nectar. We are just gargling out the stuff. How do you see? I mean, this is my note because I heard about your politics today, and this is my response. How do you see now? Does it make any sense to you? About my catch-22 situation, I'm middle of nowhere. I seem to be standing alone.
No, I understand, and a lot of what you're saying resonates with me as well. What I think is, or what I would add is that I wouldn't say every side has good people and bad people. So forget it, right? So I feel like certain elements, for example, let me speak to the US context, which I understand better than I understand the Indian context, which I try to understand. We have Democrats and Republicans in the United States. I completely believe both of these parties are mostly pro-corporate, not really don't have the deep interest of sort of grassroots democracy, uplifting the most oppressed, the most impoverished, really equalizing things in the United States, right? That's been the case my whole life. These are both establishment parties that are not about justice and liberation. However, do I vote Democrat and not Republican? Absolutely, right? It's a harm reduction. It's a harm reduction strategy, right? I will always choose and in fact fight for establishment neoliberals over fascists, right? Fascists are extremely dangerous, and I think there's a real parallel between what's been happening in the United States in the last 5 or 6 years and what's happening in India, right? Modi and Trump are buddies, and that's not a coincidence. There's a similar style of governance and a similar style of sort of this sort of hateful ideology that underlies a lot of their messaging, right? In India's case, one that's deeply anti-Muslim, for example, and in the U.S., of course, one that is quite white nationalist, not so subtly. So, do I think Joe Biden is our ticket to justice and liberation? Of course not, but. Was I very, very happy that he got elected over another Trump administration? Of course I was, right? It opens up more space for social movements to do what we have to do. So for me, I have a background in organizing, so I'm always thinking about what kind of political situation can we bring about that gives us more space to breathe, right? That gives us more space to have targets, right? To have elected officials who we might actually be able to move sometimes, right?
If I may come in here, there is a talk in America about reparations.
Yeah.
Is it? Do you think, is it a worthy thought?
Absolutely. I think we're a very, very long way from it happening.
It is about reparations, not just to the Black community, Black American community, but also to the Native Indians, Native Americans. Reparations to both, right? You agree that they've been disenfranchised from so much that has gone. So you have to see the politics of, it is not spoken about openly. So maybe many people would be hearing for the first time, some who would be aware of it, but they wouldn't occasionally be talking, at least publicly, like this. In South Asia, the politics is something similar to reparations. You see, for several centuries, the height was in Aurangzeb's time and Jahangir and Shah Jahan's time when Guru Arjan was martyred, Guru Tegh Bahadur was martyred. There was an emperor who, they say, a Mughal emperor who was a Naqshbandi, the Wahhabi kind of brand, they say. The scholars say that. That a Sawa Man, almost like 125, I don't know what, a couple of hundred, ounces or pounds of Janeu, this Hindu Brahmin thread. If it was burnt, only then he would take his dinner. Now, these are legends which have even reached my ears in the late 20th century and early 21st century. Now, when you look at the Hindu-Muslim divide and the fight, it is an older fight. We talk of reparations. We cannot discount that, because if we discount that fact, then we are not understanding the problem. We are just having a very superficial reading of it all. It is like, and it can be very confusing, like the murder of the 16-year-old girl that happened. Not murder, but the killing. Rather, if I may rephrase, the death of the teenage girl with a knife in the hand who was about to stab another girl. And whom do you call responsible? The cop. Initially, everybody took their Baraat and tried to paint the cop that, why didn't he do this? Now they're talking about why don't the cops shoot in the leg? I've also questioned that that's such a stupid idea to hit, in the main body where the heart and it can be easily fatal. The head and the upper torso could be the lower one, or the legs could be there. But anyway, that's besides the point. But the idea of knife. So if you look at it, what happened, it's one thing. But if you look at the story, the other girls had knocked on the door of this girl, the first stories that came, they came to attack her. She was actually defending. So it's too...
Yeah, she called the police.
Yes, she's the one, right? So it's a matter of when do you take the photo? If you take a simple portrait, if it's not a moving image of the entire story, we can take things out of context. So the fight for centuries where the Pandit pretended to be a Muslim outside, and Gurbani, Guru Nanak has noted that. He says, outwardly you're having an appearance of a Muslim, but inside you're chanting your mantras and at home you're worshipping, your Hindu, your Vaishnav Sakat Shaiva. There's a lot of, it was even counted as hypocrisy at one time. So to see the Hindu-Muslim friction and the Guru's contribution in creating a bridge, and the Sikhs, the way they created the bridge in between that, by example, like Guru Tegh Bahadur's martyrdom happens, but Guru Gobind Singh accepts to meet Aurangzeb and then helps one of his most deserving son, Bahadur Shah, to ascend to the throne. The Sikh armies went. In fact, when the Nazar of the Saif had, Hazrat Ali's, Saif sword was offered by Bahadur Shah to Guru Gobind Singh, my ancestor was there along with him. And Nazar was given as a matter of thanking him for helping him ascend, to be the Emperor of India. So I hear you, but I am mindful of the histories. So there are good people in the South Asian context. I know some extraordinary, wonderful, and beautiful Muslims within the different Muslim orientations. I know some extraordinary fellows who are Hindus, be it Vaishnav, Sakat, Shaiv, Tantric, Jogi, etc., or others who are the other outcasts or Dalits or the tribes. There's some extraordinary folks. Some are and politically driven, like it kutte da vair, like a brick and a dog, animosity and the animus that is there. I also see that. Difficult at times. I'm just left quiet because everybody seems to have an agenda. Insaniyat, humanity, is the agenda of very few people.
Yeah.
And I cannot endorse. I sometimes hold myself back because I know at times it seems a very good agenda. Humanity, kindness, and Sarbadda Pala is not the agenda. And that is where my politics is born and dies. To come to your Koi Bole Ram Ram, do you think it's a time to play that?
Let's do it. Yeah, since we're talking about it.
Let's have a look. So would you like to tell everybody what is it and we're going to play? Why don't you introduce your
sure.
track, and then whoever is, and the ones who've recorded for you, the sound engineers and others, you want to give a shout out? Huh?
Of course. Yeah, so this is one of the tracks from my forthcoming album. So the music video was released a few months back, directed by a friend of mine, Nadia Awad. And we had this idea, as I was saying, to highlight the anti-CAA NRC protest movement happening at Shaheen Bagh and beyond. So you'll see a lot of footage that was courtesy of Jamun Collective, a really amazing collective of filmmakers based in Delhi, who were kind enough to lend us their footage. And yeah, a lot of musicians on the track. I won't name them all, but it's produced with my good friend Wil-Dog Abers from the LA-based band Ozomatli, and I hope you enjoy it.
I see. I was wondering, in fact, about the footage when I saw, and it almost went on the border. I almost did not choose, but then I saw that it's fine. It's a thin line, but it's a good one. But I was wondering about the footage. Did you come here and shoot, or how was it? Thank you for sharing that. It's that some of your friends from Delhi shared their
Yes.
footage with you, and thank you for telling us about them.
Yeah, they're incredible. Yeah.
The beautiful composition by Kabir Saab. You can continue. Just let me just say that
Please.
it's a text from Bani. Koi bole Ram Ram, koi Khudaya, koi se main Gusaiya, koi it's a koi se navaye Karan Karan Kareem Kirpa Dhar Rahim. Somebody goes to the pilgrimage, somebody goes to Hajj. Somebody keeps it like a Ramzan, somebody is keeping breath, etc. Believe you me, you need to read Guru Nanak, you need to read Kabir, Ravidas, Namdev. Only then you will know what humanity is. They had a vantage view. All the existing surviving major religions were there when they were responding to it. So we all need to read them to understand how to live together. It's a very, very important text, and of course the visuals, as Sonny had shared. Sonny, you were saying you want to add something before we play that.
I don't remember anymore, but I think we can play it and we can talk more after.
Sure. All right.
Azadi. Action se pyari. Azadi. Action hamari. Azadi.
Well, that was quite quite a. I mean, it's a well put together. I like the track. Love the trumpet. And you were in the. I mean, how have you? Did you come to Delhi?
No, I was not there, believe it or not.
So how did you do this? They're all superimposed images of you and.
Yeah, so we did a shoot in that's Jackson Heights, Queens. Wherever you see me, that's Queens, New York. Which, if you're not familiar with Jackson Heights, it's a Desi neighborhood. Yeah.
Yes, I see. I was wondering because I was wondering. There's some places are familiar, but I wasn't sure. I thought I'll ask you, how did you do this?
Yeah, I was not there. I would have loved to have been there, but the idea for the video came sort of while the protests were happening. We were starting to gather footage, and then the lockdown began. Of course, the protests were shut down, and then we were able to do that shoot in New York when rates were quite low in New York last summer.
I see. So it was shot during the lockdown, is it?
Yeah, last summer the rates in New York were quite low. So I was basically taking my mask off, putting it back on. Yeah. So you probably saw people with masks in the New York footage in the background.
I didn't see that far. I was just sort of caught up by looking at the trumpet and the Sardar in it. And in the composition, I mean, is it an old composition that you had composed, or you did it specially for this?
Yeah. So that horn line, that melody actually is one that I wrote long time ago. And then it just made, as I was putting together the album, it somehow felt right to me. And then, the chords and the melody for the Koi Bole Ram part kind of came together. Yeah.
Fantastic. No, compliments for that. And thank you for sharing the track with us all, here at YaarAnād, and I'm Friends of Anād Foundation here.
Thank you so much. I'm glad you like it. So I've gotten mixed. I've gotten a lot of support from the Sikh community, and then one out of 50 thinks it's blasphemy what I'm doing with Gurbani, and then I try to have a respectful conversation if they're interested in having that conversation. But sometimes they're not.
Why do they object? What is the idea of blasphemy with Gurbani?
Well, I'm glad that perplexes you too. But I think, when you're doing something so musically different from how Gurbani is usually sung and usually played, I think that automatically is going to make some people feel uncomfortable. So I try to understand where somebody's coming from, because sometimes they'll say, oh, you're not playing it in the original rags. And I'm like, I can understand that critique. I deeply respect the movement to bring Kīrtan back to the original rags, but you're going to need to shut down almost every gurdwarā in the world then, because, shabads have been sung outside of the original rags for a very long time. And that's something that's come to become a norm. So then I'm like, so is it the instrumentation? Do you have a problem with the trumpet? Do you have a problem with the drum set? So, if I was to guess, I think it has to do with the rhythm more than anything else. Hearing drum set, something that sounds a little bit more like rock music with Gurbani on it, I think has pushed some buttons. But again, for the most part, people have been very supportive. My parents love it. Passes the parent test. That's always a good thing.
Now, that's a bias test. Sorry. I'm not going to give you points on that. Doting
for me,
a doting dad and a doting brother and a sister and a nephew. No, it doesn't work with me. It doesn't cut ice. But the thing is that the folks who criticize, if at all, the rhythm is the problem, I hope they have equally voiced their disappointment with the kind of tabla and the rhythm playing at the Darbar Sahib and other gurdwaras around the world. That has nothing to do with the original Kīrtan.
Right.
Kīrtan is not just in a rag, and then, not very many people know about the ragas. The so-called Gurmat Sangeet project, which is going around the world, they are mostly performing ragas that were concocted in 1991, 92 at Chardi Kala, under the kind gaze of, very well-intentioned gaze of Baba Sucha Singh, whom I was very close with. He wanted me to be his heir apparent. I disagreed that I'm from the mainstream Sikhs, and I told that I'm a producer of the mainstream Sikh stream of knowledge, and I'm not available to be kidnapped or hijacked by denominations. So that was my fight. Politics since I was a teenager actually,
Sure.
later teens onwards. So most of the ragas that are being sung are new concoctions, and they have nothing to do with Sikh history. So who's preaching? I mean, if anybody wants to talk about ragas, I'm a subject expert. My family has been at it from the time Dharamsal was founded 5 centuries ago. So anybody wants to have a conversation, please kindly bring your credentials, because I will check them. Just because you are a Paiji or a Panditji or a Ustadji or a Khan Sahab or a Pai Sahab wouldn't melt any ice. So don't worry about it, Sonny. If anybody has a problem, you can give my reference and my address. I would be very
I'll tag you in the comments.
I would glad to talk to them about it. So that you can just ignore, because beat, for example, if you take the toll, Bajat toll Mardang Nagade, there is these Guru Gobind Singh says it, and the dhol has been played. Now they don't know, Sikhs don't know much how to play. I saw, in fact, the other day, one girl from Chandigarh who was playing, and the same thing goes. They think that is it. That is dhol. No. Doesn't go like that. Look at this ancient composition. It's my, variations mine, but it's an ancient composition. So, dha trigardhet katta ghiddi ghinna dha. Kernanak. No, kernanak is a dhol. So, kernanak. Take trigardhet ta ghiddi ghinna dha di dha. Kernanak trigardhet Taketaka giddi ginna dadi da Kernanak Taketaka Kernanak Takadheta Taketaka. These are compositions which are blends. Blends. These are dhol, mardang, and nagaras. I mean, these Johnnies have no idea what they're talking about. I am the head of the oldest school of percussion of South Asia. No other school goes as back as Guru Nanak. So if anybody has a problem with rhythm, I am the daddy in the town, so come and have a conversation. Now look at this. Gadgadgin, gadgadgin karna, gadgadgin, gadgadgin kirna. This is Nagada. So gadgadgin, gadgadgin kirna, gadgadgin, gadgadgin kirna. Kirna is toll. So gadgadgin, gadgadgin kirna, gadgadgin, gadgadgin karna. Gadgadgin karna, gadgadgin karna. Kedan nana karnan is a dhol. Kedan nak nana 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 nana. These are all, dhol, mardang compositions. So these people have no idea about the advent of percussion. We are warriors, right? My ancestor at the time of Guru Nanak was a warrior. His favorite was a battle axe. Right? Now, every warrior had his own personal nagarchis, grand warrior. We're talking about warrior clans. I'm like one thoroughbred. We had our own dholis, nagarchis, and they would play the dance, and the warrior would dance accordingly, and nobody would touch. So there would be warrior clans, they would have their own dhols. It was a competition of an extraordinary kind. what are these nonsense? I mean, these guys have they're bloody born out of the Kutch and the Kuch and the Cook of the Goras. They have no idea about the sovereign, about the uncolonized folks. They have no history. They have no memory of the music. They have no memory of vocal music. They have no memory of the percussive or the instruments. They have no memory of the exegetical attendance. But they have an opinion to mouth.
Yes.
So I'm just sharing it for sensitizing our viewers, of course, but also to share with you, to give you sort of an assurance that you be as shameless as you can, but produce pure music. Pure music is a pure note, is a single note, is pure music. And unless you are aware about multiple melodies, you won't be able to sing the melodies that are ordained, that are included in the Guru Granth Sahib properly. If you do not know Shuddha Kalyan or Bhup Kalyan or etc., Deshkar is not mentioned in the Guru Granth Sahib. But if you don't know those ragas, you won't be able to sing Asa proper. You won't be able to sing Prabhati proper unless it's a constellation of 6 to 8 ragas. Some of them are part of the Guru Granth Sahib, some of them are not. So in terms of gaining the etiquette of learning even Rag Prabhati, you need to learn the entire constellation of similar ragas. You cannot sing Bilawal until you sing Khamaj is not mentioned, but you need to learn all of them. You cannot just steal a rag dhun from some copy in a book and you think you're singing Nirdharit ragas. That is the definition of being nonsensical, of being stupid. So I think I enjoyed it, and I'm a paramparamukhi. I had traditions, and I will always stand as long as I said, it has a logic, as a musical logic, and it is contextual from a single beat to 1,000 beats.
Yeah,
you have the freedom.
Yeah.
Talking of beats, poetry. Look at Guru Sahib. From a single worded chant, tuk, verse, to twin worded, dui akshari chant, twin worded verse, to a 3-worded verse. Mohan roop dikhave, ab mohe neend suhave, meethi pir hai kahani, ab main sahaj samani. Mohan, from 3 words to 4-worded verses, to 2 twin words, Dutana Sangariya, Bhayangan Vasariya, Anek Upariya. Ek akshari chants, 1-worded verses by Guru Gobind Singh, Ajay, Abhay, Aganj, Abhanj. I mean, what are they talking? Have they ever seen the ambit of Guru Granth Sahib? Look at one line, the crooked chants, as I call them, or in translation, because they are multiple verse patterns in a single pada. Look at the partals. So creativity, unbridled. You're brought out of the cage. You gain your own experience and tell us about what was your dip like. A dip in the ocean within. In the rag that occurs to you, as the revelation would come unto you, I am taught by Baba Nanak, by Kabir, by Ravidas and Namdev and Farid to listen to that fresh song of revelation. So I think, I hope this clarifies once and for all my opinion about how I see music. And I must confess, my opinion is worth more than a cent.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It means a lot coming from you, especially.
So, we also spoke about Chardi Kala. Do you think it is time for us to learn about the project Chardi Kala that you...
Yeah, let's do it.
Would you like to share with us about it? I mean, how did it come into being? I know that it's you're in the process of completing this project. I mean, this project.
Yes.
Tell us about this. Why Chardi Kala? Is it a reflection that the world needs Chardi Kala, or that you are already in Chardi Kala?
Yeah, I think it's that I need Chardi Kala, and I think the world needs it too. But more broadly, what the project is essentially an album. Koi Bole Ram is one of the tracks
I
on
see.
that album.
So it's part of that. I see. Okay.
Yes.
I see.
So the full album is not out yet. I've released three tracks so far, and really this started.
So even Mitar Pyare Nu is part of the same. I see. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. So eventually it'll all be folded into one album.
And you were telling,
because of COVID, the release is getting stretched out. Because I want to be able to do this music live as well. You know, I want to be able to play with the band in real time, not just on screen. So hopefully by the time the full album comes out, I'll be able to do that. So, you know, I started, the idea was really born a couple of years ago. As we've discussed, I've played a lot of different styles of music. I've toured around the world with Red Baraat. And, you know, I really hadn't revisited what was my first musical voice, kīrtan, as a quote unquote professional musician, right? As an adult who's made music the center of my life. I hadn't really revisited the shabads I learned when I was a kid. I hadn't really explored Gurbani through this lens. So on a personal level, a couple of years ago, I just felt a pull to do that. You know, just got on my Vaja and was trying to sort of remember the shabads I learned as a kid. And then started making these little, I don't know if you've seen these like grid Instagram videos where, you know, it's basically 7 or 8 of me playing different instruments, singing harmonies, playing trumpet, with some of these compositions I learned when I was a kid as well. Eventually I started writing my own compositions based on shabads that inspired me. And it turns out it was really moving to a lot of people within our community, Sikhs and non-Sikhs alike. So I kept kind of running with it. And talked to my friend Wil-Dog from Ozomatli, and he was really into it, really excited about it, and wanted to make a record with me. So then these little 1 minute tracks that I was putting out on Instagram of me playing, you know, dole, percussion, vaja, trumpet, singing 3 harmonies, turned into real studio tracks with other musicians who are better at playing these other instruments than I am, as well as, you know, a pretty vast palette of instrumentation. And and I decided to call it Chardi Kala. I wrote a composition called Chardi Kala, which maybe we'll hear in a little bit. And for me, that this idea, this concept, this practice of Chardi Kala has always been just deeply inspiring to me, right? As we know, our people have been through some of the worst sort of collective traumas imaginable, and yet there is still this ever-rising spirit, right? There's this sort of spiritual, political, humanity duty to remain in high spirits, because we know that if we put Waheguru at the center, if we put, you know, the most oppressed, the most exploited, the lowest of the low at the center of our work, at the center of our seva, at the center of our struggles, we know that Waheguru is on our side, right? We know we can do it. And that ever-rising spirit, that sort of steadfast determination is so inspiring to me. So I wanted to try to embody that in the music, right? I wanted to make music that lifts our spirits. And so that was the concept. That is the concept.
But you translated Chardi Kala as ever-rising spirit.
Ever-rising spirits. I mean, I feel like there's so many different ways to translate it.
I think, I don't know what day, before yesterday, Tribal Gulabo, of YaarAnād friends from Karachi in Pakistan, she asked me what would be the translation of Biba. Biba, no, like we call Biba, it's typical Punjabi address to a young, or to a woman. It could be a young one or even an elderly one. I sometimes have called elderly women, "Ho Biba ji ki haal hai?" So Wajiha Outernational was asking what would be the translation for Biba. So I said, "Babe."
Translation is a hard thing.
It's not possible. How do I translate Biba? It's not a woman. It's not a lady. It's something else.
Yeah.
So Chardi Kala, Chardi is ascending, yes.
Yeah.
But Kala is not spirit. The problem with translation is that. Chardi Kala, I would say, Haji Chardi Kala, Haji, the good spirits is one thing. But it is, it's not that. It's something else. But we don't know. I mean, don't ask me. I'm not wanting to give any answer. But that's fun. I mean, that's an amazing problem to have, right?
Yeah, I think sometimes what sometimes bothers me about the way it's translated is it becomes this simplistic idea of just be positive all the time. No matter what traumatic events are happening, no matter what sort of exploitation or hatred or oppression you might be experiencing, just be positive, right? And I've heard that idea sort of expressed in our community, that you always have to be positive. And to me, that's an oversimplistic idea.
Yeah, but I think, when heritage is being destroyed, am I supposed to be positive?
Exactly. That's my point.
Misuse of these terms. Like, for example,
I agree.
One of my mentors, somebody came, and this, Manas ki jaat sab hai kya pehchan bo, and he says, Manas ki jaat sab hai kya pehchan, all humanity is one. And my mentor at that time, who I fought a lot with, but this is something that I like from him. He says, he's talking to the guy who's trying to have a very philosophic debate. He's basically trying to show off. And even as a teenager, even to me, it looked all awkward. That guy was just all over the place. But then Gyani Sher Singh looked at me and he started talking to me, this is the old Punjabi proverb, like, ye gal kar nu, ye kan kar. He says, daughter, you talk to me, but the silent is, daughter-in-law, you bloody lend me your ear. I am talking actually to you, but to my daughter. There's a mother-in-law, daughter-in-law, proverb. So he was talking to me. He says, Baldeepji, that how can I know all humanity is one? I will only know my wife or my husband as my wife or a husband, my spouse as a spouse, my children as children, my friends as friends, my parents as parents, my siblings as siblings, my relatives as relatives, my friends as... But then my foes who want to come and do harm unto me, I'm not going to know them as one. I'm going to defend myself. So that's not the meaning. And then I also said that, my observation, but also my teaching, my elder granduncles have taught me differently. And he says, what is that? He said, that's it's Guru Gobind Singh telling us all, Manas ki Jaat Sabha is addressing entire humanity, which is fighting with each other. Right? All the crusades, and it's humanity against humanity, one kind of humanity, one faction of humanity against humanity. It's not like individuals, right? It's like huge enterprises. Look at Palestine, for example, Israel, Palestine. It's a civilizational battles. Look at Catholic versus Protestant. All this church within the church. So many factions within Islam, so many factions in the Sikhs, so many factions in the Hindus, etc. So he's addressing in that, says, entire humanity, Manas ki Jaat sab hai, all humanity, all humankind, sab hai, ek hai pehchan. Because they're fighting over their idea of God, their God. He says, recognize that there's only one. So it's not just one humanity. That's a common denominator. We are all here, but races are different, everything. But the one on which the biggest battles have been fought is on religion. Okay, keda rab vadda, keda katta. So I think it's very interesting how to look at some of these terms and misnomers about how Bani is seen by people in terms of estimation, assumptions, or interpretations, the hermeneutic curve, as I call it.
Sure.
So, Chardi Kala, you're telling about this. Have you any other details, technical details you would want to share before we play that?
Yeah, so we'll play it. This just came out a little over, maybe almost 2 months ago now. Also produced by Wil-Dog from Ozomatli. The video director is a guy named Hira Singh, based here in New York, but he worked with the crew in Punjab. The village that you'll see is in Nardu, outside of Patiala.
Beautiful shots.
Yeah. So, and then once again, I am not there. I am here in Brooklyn. When you see me, I'm in Brooklyn, and the kids are in Punjab.
Who's that
But
wonderful girl?
Her name is Angel Kaur. She's amazing.
Is she related, or just,
No.
just the photographers did that work?
Exactly. The cinematographers cast it. They had some relationships in that village, so they got some kids together.
How much does a project like that cost to produce? Like one video that you've done?
This one, a couple $1,000 overall. Yeah.
Overall, I see. Very well done. Let's enjoy that. Anything else you want to share?
Yeah, let's let the music and video speak.
I didn't realize that I just make sure that I've not interrupted you.
No, let's do it. Let's watch it.
Okay. That was fun. Compliments again for that. The shots towards the end where the ruined house with the iron girders are out, and then that tanga, or that reda, as we call them. I mean, let's say that horse or a bullock carriage cart is there. What was the theme like? Why did you include those visuals? Is it thematic or what? Or just the random shots?
I think we'd have to ask the video director and cinematographer. You know, I think they wanted to capture village life and visuals, and I think, you know, the Nardu, this village, the spin that they were in, just the visuals are just epic there, right? And I feel like it matched the music really nicely. But you know, I can't take credit for these visuals because I didn't direct. I can take credit for the music, but we'd have to ask what their particular thinking was. But I think a lot of it is just aesthetic, capturing life, capturing the vibe.
So that's very interesting for me to learn. So you, the music composition, of course, the visuals are you're already recording that, and then you give the music to the videographer, cinematographer, the shots that you've done in Brooklyn, etc., and Queens, wherever you've gone. In this one and the previous one, the video that we showed, the Koi Bole Ram Ram, and then the videographer is the one who's giving the final shape and all that for the video.
Yeah,
that's the process you do.
Yeah, I have a say in it for sure. If there's something I don't like or something that's not working, and we talk about ideas together. But even the shots in Brooklyn, the director and cinematographer was a different cinematographer for the Brooklyn shoot than the Punjab shoot, of course. They were setting up those shots.
Of course, they bring in their logic, and you, of course, there's a conversation. Tell me about the music. Where did you record it then?
Home base for the recording was in Los Angeles at the producer's studio.
You were there when we were talking. You were there at the time.
Yeah. So that's where I recorded all my parts, and he's a bass player, so he recorded all his parts there. We put together demos there. And then for the most part, we sent it out to people. So these days, most people have home studio setups. So a lot of other people recorded their parts in their homes, and then some people came to his studio in LA and recorded in his studio.
And what software have you used? Like any particular one? Pro Tools?
It's all Pro Tools.
In Pro Tools, okay.
Yeah, I'm useless. I'm not an engineer. That's not my expertise. But yeah, it was all done into Pro Tools. Mm-hmm.
As long as you play the trumpet and do your music, it's more than what you need to do.
Yeah, I've learned. That's why I have a fancy microphone in front of me going through Skype and then going into a live stream right now. I've learned some things in the last year, but and I have a second mic here for my trumpet. But yeah, I'm pretty technologically inept overall.
Right. But again, we can't do everything, isn't it?
No.
Yeah. We've heard two, videos already. I was hoping if you can play some trumpet. Would you like to share? Would you like to play some?
Happy to. You want just trumpet, or you want the whole thing?
No, that's trumpet. We want to listen to the trumpet. We've heard music. The music. I just want to make a break.
Sure. Well, I'll reflect on the theme that we just heard.
I see.
Short little Chardi Kala reprise.
Very nice. And you were mentioning about, I think there was Thirkar Basso you were playing. Can you give that demo? That was very interesting what you did. You have the soundtrack and you can play along, sing along.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay. Let me just cue everything up here. Okay, here we go. Thirkar Basso har jan pyare satgur tumhare kaaj saware Thirkar Basso har jan pyare satgur tumhare kaaj saware dusta duta har mein sarmare janki pehch rakhi karta baag sahasa sab bas kar diye amrit naam maharas piye Thirkar Basso har jan pyare satgur tumhare kaaj saware Dilbo hoye bhajo bhagwan sad sangat mila dino daan sar pare rabe antar jami nanak yod akari prabh swami Thirkar Basso har jan pyare satgur tumhare kaaj saware Thirkar Basso.
That was quite an experiment to sing along with the recording.
Yes. This is the pandemic times.
Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that. It's the compositional structures about Gurbani. The way, are you following any particular music, any particular musician? How are you composing these, and have you thought about composing Gurbani in particular, or just random? Sometimes compositions come because of your old association with Gurbani anyway.
Yeah, well, this one actually is not my own composition. This is the way I learned it as a child. So I would literally just play the vocals on Vaja unison, and so that just stuck with me. And then of course the instrumentation, the arrangement, the trumpets, the sort of palette was all created for this new incarnation. But in general, it's a very organic process for me composing. It usually starts with either my trumpet in my hand or, noodling around on Vaja. sometimes back and forth. Trumpet is, I'm not really much of a harmonium player, but obviously being able to map out chords, I can't play chords on a trumpet. I can only play one note. So sometimes bhaja is an important part of that process for me, mapping out where I want to go. And then, so sometimes a musical idea comes before I know what it's going to be. And then I find the words that fit it. And sometimes it's reversed. Sometimes I know I want to do a rendition of this shabad or these few lines. And then the music takes form after. It just sometimes it starts with a trumpet melody that has nothing to do with singing. And then from there, like Koi Bole Ram started with that, and then that dropped into a chord pattern for me, over which Koi Bole Ram is sung.
I see.
That's
very interesting. Yeah. And the third video that we have queued up is the Mitar Pyare Nu. I like that in the sense that you're demonstrating the pagdi tying within that, and it was I think it's very important as such to help people understand that it's not a hat, and that turban is a cultural heritage of the world, and it's not just Sikhs. There are turban is a common heritage across religions. And in fact, the Sikh 5Ks of the Khalsa has only kanga. That means if you are a Khalsa without a turban, you've got your kanga and your case, and your kara, kripan, kashera, you're a Khalsa. You're Panch Kakar Tari. Turban is not part of that. So
it's very interesting.
People would again have, how can you say that? But that's how it is. You want to fight? I welcome you to have lock your horns with the feet of Guru Gobind Singh. I mean, you won't have any luck there. So there is a very, very interesting caveat there. So tell me about, there's some of the things that I observed. You're sitting in your room and you're playing, and the turban tying is going on, and then you're dancing around in the streets as well, playing the trumpet, and of course singing also. Tell us about what you're trying to do with this. What are you saying?
Yeah. So this video was made right when lockdowns really started. This was made about a year ago. That's when we shot it. So, and I am fortunate that my partner is a filmmaker. So I was literally quarantining with somebody who does make video and film. So that's how this was how this could happen.
Is she here?
She's not. She's in LA.
This is bad. Then we would have had to get her.
Yes, she would have been very embarrassed by that, I'm sure. But it would be great to hear her perspective, of course, because yeah, I know, right? She's the visual artist behind this. But I was explaining the meaning of the shabad to her, and it just felt like very poignant for the time that we were in, right? When we think about the context that Guru Gobind Singh was in when he voiced Mitar Pyare Nu, right? Sort of isolated in the jungle, perhaps hiding out, experienced lots of trauma, and yet there's a lot of pain in this shabad, of course. But for me, the pain is not the take home message of the shabad. The take home message is that solace we find, that we're never, even when we're isolated, we're not actually alone, right? Because we have the beloved friend. So I think the visuals were trying to capture some of that spirit, right? These pandemic times have been really isolating for a lot of us, right? We can't, those of us who are social beings, which is most of us, like finding that comfort in other people has been a lot harder at this time. So I think that feeling of isolation, that separation pang, is part of what we were trying to communicate through the video. And then the tying the star, for me, that's it's a daily, we Sikhs don't really like rituals, but for lack of a better word, it is a daily ritual for me that does ground me, right? There's meaning behind it, right? It's not simply a piece of clothing. So I think you're right in interpreting there's an educational component, but there's also, it's like, obviously I don't usually tie my pug surrounded by candlelight, right? That was a visual idea that the director had, but it being sort of one of the ways that I stay connected to something greater, right? To that beloved in the hardest of times. It's a practice that we do every day, right?
I wouldn't call it a ritual, my lovely.
Ritual is not the right word. Again, lost in translation. Not a ritual, but it's a daily practice.
I mean, it's something that you do many times a day at times. It's like eating, and it's like I understand. I mean, I know for want of, what do we say? Ritual is close enough, but it's just for those who because ritual as a term has been demonized.
It's a loaded term.
It's a loaded term.
Yeah, a daily practice. It's a daily practice that for me has meaning.
But that's what I'm referring to. It's not daily. It's like it can be many times a day practice, because it's not necessary that we, it'll be a very sweaty endeavor if I were to have one pagdi, unless I'm in the thick of something that's different. But
for me, it's mostly once a day.
Okay.
This one's going to last me till...
Okay, then it's your ritual. All right, I'll give you that. All right. Again, your partner shot this as well, or?
Yes. Yeah, she directed and shot this one, and with very limited equipment, no tripod. So it was I think it came out beautifully, but it was a no budget video.
I see. Okay. No, don't worry. I'll charge you for watching it. You'll have to bribe me with a nice cup of coffee when I'm in Brooklyn next.
Absolutely.
All right. Here's the Mitar Pyare Nu. Folks, let's enjoy this one.
मितर प्यारे नू हाल मुरी दादा के ना मितर प्यारे नू हाल मुरी दादा के ना तुद बिन रोग रजाया दा ओडाना तुद बिन रोग रजाया Naganavasa Derena Mitar Pyare Mitar Pyare Nu हाल मुरी दादा के ना सुल सुराही कंजर पियाला पिंगक साया दासेना यार रे दा सानू सतर चंगा भट खेरिया दारेना मित्र प्यारे हाल मुरी दादा के ना मित्र प्यारे हाल मुरी दादा के ना 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 हाल मुरी दादा के ना.
That was, I like that. I mean, the visuals. I mean, where are you with the flowers? Those, those different yellow and red flowers and so on and so forth.
That's in the Antelope Valley in Southern California. There's a super bloom every spring. So yeah, pretty much exactly a year ago we shot this, and so it's all in Southern California.
I see. It's fun. And that highway, the bridge that you were in.
Yep, L.A.
Also,
L.A. with a lot less traffic a year ago.
I see. I couldn't recognize it.
Yeah.
I know. I've seen Rome, where there are like arteries and veins which never end.
Yes.
I've seen them dead during the daytime as well.
Mhm.
I mapped, in fact, last year, some of it. And so this was, tell me about, there were two candles that you blow them. What is that for? Why only two?
We'll have to ask Shruti that one, the director.
So it's not your, I mean, she just asked you to
Yeah.
do that. But
I
why
think
only
it's-
two? Did you
it's
only
a-
do two, or you blew more candles off?
I blew all of them. I blew all of them out. That's probably
She
just
just
how
kept two
how
of
she
them.
edited it.
I see.
Yeah.
But it was not.
You're looking for a deeper meaning.
No. I'm not looking for it. I'm not fishing. I'm not a fishing. I'm not on a fishing expedition. I'm just asking. I see and I ask. I mean,
Of course,
I
fair
like
enough.
if you were to see the junk which is on my table, there's a logic to it, right?
That's right.
It's like there's a logic, even if if there is no logic, but even that's logic. So I asked. There was a problem. There was some internet issue. The streaming actually stopped in between. Also, so it was not just the camera. Actually, there was something wrong
Ah, okay.
with the streaming. Yeah. So, I was just saying that if there is something happening, as someone who's enjoyed the camera and editing as well, and both audio and video editing,
Hmm.
sometimes I am always wondering if there is something. Then is it a reason, or is it just part of the greater story?
Yeah. There's probably a reason, but I think it's probably mostly an aesthetic reason.
Yeah, I mean, if there was a reason, you would have known, and you would have shared with me, unless you told me that that's a secret.
Exactly.
Right. So that was. Let's have a look at some of the comments. Are you game for that?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
And let's see. Early messages were all to do with my early voice when I was introducing you so nicely, and you were all giggling at the back, and they were all saying, "Hey, excuse me, Signore, you can't hear you, you old wreck." So, but anyway, we got that sorted. But Narendra Pal saying Sukhmanjeet, just one saying Slatch. Ishar saying from England, England, and then we had Kīrtan Sood, then Harjeet Johal, Tarinder also, Tarinder Kaur, and then Jaswinder Bhangra, my cousin, my big sister. I got to behave. I didn't know she was here. I'd rather behave. And well, by that time, so all of you, thank you very much for sounding the alarm, which didn't sound anyway, but at least you wrote a note that I needed to get my act together, audio act together. But it was good because sometimes these Brooklyn felons of Brooklyn, you need to tell them twice. Hey, hello, Sonny Singh. They would say, who? Sonny Singh. Hello, Sonny Singh. Then they realize, I'm talking to them. So
That's right.
I think they need a double introduction. It's like double jeopardy.
Yes.
So
Yes.
then Sonny actually knew that I'm talking about him.
I needed time to get more awake too,
Yes, maybe must have been that conspiracy. Anyway, thank you all for your sort of knocks on the door to get me. I know that Ramanjit also was, because they were talking about somebody call him. So I think Ramanjit, and there were a couple of other calls. But of course, I realized by that time there was something happening, and I saw the off button. They're all saying Sat Kartar and Sat Shri Akal, Namaskar, Divya, Suvarna. Thanks for featuring such wonderful musician artists. Well, it's not just for you, huh? She's telling me about the series. So, Sonny, you can't steal away the entire praise. It's
not about me.
It's not about you. It's about me. Featuring
about you.
Beautiful artists, musicians / artists.
Yes, your curation.
So you be measured, huh? Remain in your place.
Yeah.
Don't
Yes.
gloat. Surinder also says Namaskar. Manish Seth, wonderful to see you. Namaskar back. And Sukhmanjeet Kaur has been summoning, knocking a few people in. Artist Gurpreet Manku, hello, how are you? Satkartar, back to you. Gurpreet Panesa Sami, Amarjeet, Poonam Ayub from Islamabad. The gentle soul stirring, gentle melodies on this otherwise normally overly loud instrument. Well, that's a praise. Isn't that?
Yeah, very nice.
If you can coax that out of Poonam, that means you are doing a good job. And Ramanjit Kaur says, deeply moving, Sonny saying the very first note set the emotion. She's a theatre person. I must confess that I never considered the trumpet an instrument with variation and emotions. My myopic vision. So, well, there goes. Bharam ka bhanda ekta phodya tune. You busted one stereotype of that. That's an achievement already.
Nice.
Sukhmanjeet Kaur says, great, wow, amazing, kya baat. Yeah, 3 praises to Sonny, come on. You have to at least praise me that how well I was listening to him. Come on, this is too much. Simpi Arora says, nice. Jaswinder Singh says, really knowledgeable. But I think he's talking about me.
Yeah, probably. I need a few more white dadis, and then I'll give you a run for your money.
No, but I also thought when I was young and really ruthless, like I would not even burp when I would eat people's brains alive, like hyenas do. And I was like an incarnation, a twin incarnation of a hyena and a lion. I was, I think, a mixed breed. And they thought I was very intimidating. And I hoped, one day I'll have a whiter beard, so maybe they'll have some respect. Now they say you're intimidation on steroids. So I don't know. I don't know about this black and white thing. Ramanjit Kaur says, this is really one of the lesser known facts that a trumpet can play all the notes that a piano can play. Wow. Thank you, Baiṭhak. I'm already glad. There's a praise about me for making us aware of these facts by inviting Sonny and engaging in this most basic and utmost important conversation about the instrument. So there you go. That's compliments. I think it was a very, very important part because, idea is to, where better lockdown. In Delhi, we're under curfew. There was nothing else to do than to knock on the doors of Sonny Singh and to tell, "Oi, kaka, sanu 10 jara ki bajana tu bhai de button put 10." What do you do with a car? Like you're a Bentley or something or a Ferrari. What do? In a garage, you bloody take up a spanner and start opening it and then dismantling it and putting it together. So, there's a Punjabi proverb, "Veli rane onu vel, onni kas onu vel." So, just, idle lass, unveil. Just take the wool. There's a whole thing about go on, wrapping wool, creating a ball. And once you do it, you take the edge of the end of the thread and you start making a new one from a ball to the other. Says, hey, idle lads, just go on doing so. Don't sit idle. Always go on doing, go on making balls from one and the other. If you don't have the ball to just do something in the air. So, like that. Anyway, Gurpreet says, amazing Bhai Saab and great, very nice. New York, NYC bro. Very NYC bro. Very nice bro. That's a good one. Gautam Kapoor says. Very NYC bro. Sukhmanjeet Kaur says, scales changing only in 3 keys. Kya baat hai? And then Sukhmanjeet Kaur says, seeing the technique of trumpet first time, very interesting. Tuning, scale, sounds. Sound is amazing. That's lovely. So I think it's education in that sense, being sensitive. Otherwise, we listen to instruments without knowing all that goes behind it, the subtleties, the technicalities, the handicaps that musicians and artists have to deal with, breath in and breath out. So I was myself quite, glad to be sensitized. Of course, there are many lovelies, Taranjeet and Manjeet. This is amazingly beautiful. Manjeet Kaur says. Amarjeet also says, kya baat hai. Sunani Sharma, the granddaughter of Surinder Kaur, she writes, just commendable that the next generation finds relevance in the preachings of all South Asian saints and fakirs. Though the narrative is at a peripheral level at the moment, and political issues, however, are something I personally avoid, I extend my blessing and best wishes for Sunny to enjoy exploring the horizon beyond. And then she says, Baraat of Crows. So true, PBS. So I think it was the time when we were discussing about all the politics.
Yeah.
Poonam Ayub writes, heartening to hear the enlightened and evolved socio-political views of the very young and very talented musician Sonny Singh. Jyotika Mehta from Delhi, she said, so well said by Saab. Jyotika, I am always well said. And Suverchal, I think, I hope I'm not mispronouncing it. If I am, my apologies. Kashyap says fantastic with a love sign. And we need more people like you, Bhai Baldeep Singh and Sonny Singh. I think it was at the time when we were talking about politics and reflection about all that is going wrong and right in the world. Jatinder Singh ji, Vaheguru ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru ji ki Fateh. And to everyone, he's saying, Pyari Saad Sangat ji, everybody, he's offering his salutations. Poonam Ayub says, that was awe-inspiring, and the devotion and solidarity you displayed with women of Delhi was truly amazing. That was a point towards the Shaheen Bagh protest. Amarjeet Singh says, amazing video. And Poonam Ayub says, Bhai Saab, surely you will place your hand of blessings and wash away all talk of Sonny being blasphemous. Absolutely. Poonam, you rightly said that because, it's like people who are dealers, wholesalers of blasphemy are raising their fingers. I mean,
those are the most likely to call others blasphemous.
So they have no idea. They have no orientation, and they say, hey, well, that old proverb saying, the South Asian proverb, Naach na jane angan teda. The gentle lady or the gentle fellow or the felon had no idea what dance is, but said, I'm not in a mood. I was not able to dance because the floor was slanted, was not straight, was not proper. So, find flaw with everything else but yourself. And so you have that. Amarjeet Singh says, love the idea of Sonny ji making a music video about the CAA protest. Law is commonly draconian. Law is certainly draconian. I would like to request him to think about doing the same about the farmers' protests as well. That's one. Ramanjit Kaur says, are such beautiful chants. One day, please share all varied chants with us. I believe Singh ji will be grateful. Of course, it'll be my pleasure. Sunani Sharma says, thank you very much. She's about to praise me, Sonny, so you keep out of this. Quote unquote, a dip into the ocean within, in the rag that's connects you to the Almighty is your calling, with many of dots in between. How beautifully explained and articulated by Saab Baibaldeep Ji, with two thanks. E033. Dekha, Sonny? You be bloody jealous, okay? I'm not giving even a cent of that praise to you. I'm going to be very miserly in that. But then Gurbinder Singh says only to you, beautiful. Maneet Kaur, I hope you're doing well. She's been taking care of the family even when she's unwell. And my 192nd Baiṭhak is still pending. She's absconding. Maybe she doesn't like my Baiṭhaks so much that she's pretending to be, at being unwell. He says, Vaguruji Mehr Rakhan, great teamwork. Pandit Shailendra Kumar Pathak, who's a musician, he says, Bahut Sundar ji, very nice. Renu Mittal Agarwal says, beautiful. Divya Suvarna says, love the melody. So there you go. We were talking about Wajiha Outernational, tribal Gulabo from Coke music, Pakistan. Her mom, maybe it is her. Hello BBS might be actually tribal Gulabo. Is it Gulabo? It's you, or is your mom's? I don't know. You have to, you're so bad. You're stealing your mom's phone or your mom's computer, and then you're chatting here. I don't know if it's your mom or you. So you have to always specify so that I behave if I'm talking, with your mom. But we were remembering her about that, the Penthia Kriya was telling about I played my prank with her, teaching, making her say the Punjabi words. And Sunani Sharma continues to write, Thirkar Baiso Harjan Pyare Sadgur Tumre Kalsware. I personally feel that expression is quite phenomenal, though it may trigger criticism from many, as discussed earlier in the session. Sonny has a pure soul, and that reflects in his music. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. That's Surendra Kaur's granddaughter, Sunani.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Mohinder Singh Kant says, very unique and innovative compositions indeed. Poonam Ayub from Islamabad continues, how interesting and revelatory that is. Yes, the pug or turban has no K anywhere near it. Well, Kesgi is one. Kesgi is a smaller one. Kesga, rarely used word, is a longer, length of the turban. But Kes is Panj of the Kakar, one of the Panj Kakars, but Kesgi or Kesga is not. And Amarjit says, I think there is so much of chaos and confusion about the Sikhi pug. Sikhs wear it as a permanent headgear. Hindus wear it irrespective of their caste divide on important occasions, and so do Muslims and Pathans. Arfan Akwi, okay, it is tribal Gulabo. Gulabo says, yesterday I heard it and was hoping to listen to it again. And here it is, beautiful. Well, what? What is she talking about?
I think Mitar Pyare Nu by that point maybe.
No, but I don't know. Tribal Gulabo, what are you talking about? Yesterday I heard it and was hoping to listen to it again. What did you hear? Like, you have to specify. I mean, because you wrote it 2 hours ago, maybe in the Stone Age or what? Bronze Age or what? We are in the postmodern age. We are living in the doomsday. All right, we screwed up the entire world. So remind me. Poonam Ayub says, so it is not limited to one community or faith, and yet the Sikhs hold on to it a strange manner, as though they will be emasculated minus it. Well, it is not about masculinity. It is honor. It is honor, like the dupatta is to the woman. It's just a lengthier cloth, and people who worked, they would wrap up. And even women who would work in the fields, they would cover their head and wrap up, because it cannot be flying around lest it, get stuck. Turban, of course, is to do with also case. Turban was part of the weapon wear, because the hair would be twisted in between so it's a long paraphernalia. It's not about masculinity. It is more than it is. Yes. More than that. It is like that. Anyway, so Tribal Gulabo says, wow, wonderful melody with trumpet. And she actually gives you 3 love signs. Can you imagine?
Wow, 3.
One for me. This is, I'm jealous. Amarjit says, bound by the traditions, I guess. Dolly Brar, hello, how are you? Long time no see. Wonderful to see you, as Sonny Singh. So she also sends you 3 love signs, 2 exclamation, red exclamation points. That's a bit much. Um, and then tribal gulabbos. I love the word mitra. And then Mandeep, Rajanbir, greetings back to you. So Tribal Gulabo says Sonny Singh is very talented. Oh, it's mom. So it's the mom. It's not Tribal Gulabo. Haha. So I take all my notes to Gulabo back. It's Gulabo's Super Gulabo, the mom, the painter, not the musician. And it's lovely to see you, Arfa. And Tarinder Kaur says, Bahut Khushi, Bahut Khoob ji. Music of Sonny Singh talking about. Yes. All right. So she was talking about your music. She wrote back. So these are some of the thoughts. Anyway, you want to say anything? Please contribute.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad to hear from everyone. Thank you so much for all of the positive reinforcement and feedback, and and also just want to extend my my thoughts and solidarity with how bad things are right now in India with COVID. It's really really scary time. So know that I'm thinking of you from here for sure. I hope folks are staying safe.
Yeah. And to come back to your ambit, tell me about the ska, reggae, funk, punk rock, and bhangra. I mean, can you tell us about those genres mentioned in your biography?
Yeah.
And if you can demonstrate some of if you can do trumpet demonstrations of how they go differently, if they do.
Yeah, it's tough to display a genre just on a trumpet, but ska music and reggae music, which are quite interconnected. Ska is the predecessor to reggae, born in Jamaica in the early 1960s. That music really made its way into my life as a teenager. It's music that has a lot of brass instruments in it. So for me, it was very exciting to hear brass instruments used in this different way than I was using it. So I got very deep into it, from the traditional stuff from Jamaica to the stuff coming out of the UK, to the newer bands in the United States. And so I became a very active participant in the ska scene, the kind of small, these bands would come play at small clubs. And I would be there every week. And so as soon as I got to college, the first thing I did was start a ska band. And it was a big part of, and still is a big part of, what's kind of influenced me as a musician. Ska and reggae in and of themselves are a mixture of a lot of different styles of music. And really, most music is, right? Most music is communication from different periods of time, but also different communities, right? Diasporic communities, coming together, and their musical cultures and just other aspects of their humanity influencing each other and coming out in the music. So ska is a really joyful music. It's dance music. It's celebratory. I don't really play ska much these days, but it's still a part of my musical personality. And there's a lot of overlap with the ska scene and the punk scene. I was never deep into the punk rock scene, but was deeply inspired by bands like The Clash out of the UK. A lot of bands in the US like Operation Ivy and Rancid, and just a bunch of. There's an attitude to punk rock that really resonated with me as a young activist, right? This rebellious spirit, and that rebellious spirit exists in ska as well. So it's not surprising that a lot of bands kind of brought ska and punk together, like the Specials in the UK with this very sort of anti-racist agenda. So ska and reggae, punk, all have influenced me quite a bit, even if it's not obvious in my music. But some people hear the ska in my music, just the kind of horn lines.
So were you actually, like reggae and others, were you actually reading something like poetry or some text, or were you always playing trumpet in it?
Oh, you mean in the bands?
In the ska thing, in the ska music.
Yeah. I was singing also.
Can you share some stuff with that?
Oh no, this is
Like
this is
years ago.
teenage
I
Sonny.
see.
We don't share teenage Sonny's music.
Come on, this is cheating.
Horrible. It's pretty bad.
Come on, give
But
us
it was
one
where I was
demo.
at that particular point
One
in time, you know.
demo. Come on, Sonny. Be a kind boy. Come on.
Well, I don't even know if I'd remember too
Like a
much,
demonst
but you
like
know,
even 2 lines. If you don't need the whole song, just to have like I have zero idea about what ska is.
I
I
mean,
think ska is misspelled sky.
you know what reggae is, though, right?
It's the deformed raga from Africa. So tell me.
Ska ska is essentially musically it's sort of like faster reggae. It's characterized by a guitar, usually a guitar, but sometimes a keyboard playing on the upbeat. So chunk 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 chunk. So this bouncy kind of feeling, and then reggae slowed down to chunk chunk chunk. But ska is sort of almost like a double time reggae, and it really reflected the political mood in Jamaica. Right, ska was born in the early days of Jamaican independence from the British, so it was celebratory. And then things continued to be really bad, so the music slowed down. It actually got more politicized in reggae. A lot of Afrocentric themes came into the music. So musically, yeah, it's that. There's actually a great ska band in Delhi who I've played with, the Ska Vengers. Do you know them?
No, I
Have
don't.
you heard of them? Yeah, check them out. They bring a lot of great politics to their music too. Activist spirit. Last time I was in Delhi, I played a few shows with them, which was a blast. Yeah, the vibe still seeps into my music. Into my music sometimes. For example, a song that I wrote for Red Baraat draws from this revolutionary Spanish poet's work called Se hace camino al andar, which means we make the road by walking. And I'll just play you the trumpet melody from that
that
song.
would be fantastic. Yeah.
Just to give you a vibe.
Yeah.
So that's
Whoa.
the vibe.
Right. That's amazing.
So it's not a ska song per se, but it has a little bit of that bouncy energy.
Uh-huh. That's fantastic. And what about the funk aspect? How is that? I've never heard about it before.
So funk, rhythm and blues, pretty much anything that you're going to consider American music, United States music, is based on African American musical forms, right? Starting with the blues, into the advent of jazz, into the advent of rhythm and blues, and then rock and roll, right? This is Black music. This is African American music. And so all the music that's influenced me growing up, and every musical idea I have in some way is shaped by that trajectory. And I think it comes out mostly in the rhythms and the feel of some of the music that I'm writing, that there's this funkiness, right? That the way that the bass and the drum set interact, right? That regardless of the ethnic backgrounds of the musicians, right? For us who learn to be musicians here in the United States, that is a part of our vocabulary. That's a part of our musical voices. So I very much embrace that. And yeah, and I years ago I played with a funk cover band, playing like Earth, Wind and Fire songs and things like this. Sort of iconic music from the 70s. So yeah, it's all, so many things influence. It's like I have a musical idea, a melody comes to my mind, a chord progression. It's not an original idea. Nothing is an original idea, right? Everything is shaped by other things we've listened to, shaped by the people who came before us.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you for sharing I'm giving us a little brief introduction about them. And would you like to play some before we end the session for the day? Would be great to have you play some stuff. I mean, random even would be. I would love to hear. I'm now, I've always, as I mentioned, I've loved the instrument, and I'm only glad to have a closer look at it.
Yeah, maybe I will go on a limb here and do a song of mine completely without any instrumentation besides what you see in front of me. So it'll be some trumpet and it'll be some singing, and you'll get the vibe for it. You'll recognize some of the lyrics too.
Okay.
So this is another one. This is another one that I do with Red Baraat, not with the new project.
I see. Okay.
मेरा जूता है जापानी पतलून इंग्लिस्तानी सिर पे लाल टोपी रूसी फिर भी दिल है इनकीलाबी जूता है जापानी पतलून इंग्लिस्तानी सिर पे लाल टोपी रूसी फिर भी दिल है इनकीलाबी.
Wow.
Azad is the name. Obviously, you probably recognize some of the lyrics, and of course, I had to change the lyrics a little bit because it's not Hindustani in my heart; it's Inqilabi in my heart.
I see. But that's it. I mean, that's a short one. Come on.
I'm just giving you a little something. There's only so much I can do without a band.
I see. And about the Western classical music, trumpet, these wind instruments have been used quite some, also from the Baroque era, etc. Have you had a look at some of those? Have you had a chance to learn or play, or you've been part of the story, that narrative as well, or you've been on your, it's been your compositions and your music?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't played classical music since in 20 years or so.
I see.
So I wouldn't be able to even. It's what I learned growing up.
So
but
it's not something that you do. Yeah. Okay.
Though there is a new project that I'm involved in right now, led by someone in the classical world. But he's explicitly bringing together non-classical musicians to reimagine Handel's Messiah, which is kind of an iconic work that's actually about Jesus Christ. And the concept is really looking at this idea of Messiah as one who fights for justice, one who fights for freedom. So I'm bringing some Sikhi perspective to that and my musical sensibilities to it, and I'm co-writing some with him. And so those will be orchestral arrangements, which should be pretty fun.
I see.
That'll probably come out sometime in 2022.
So it's a classical musician venturing into the non-classical aspect, and then your guys are writing together.
It's been fun. It's been really fun.
I mean, it's very, slurpy. What a prospect. That's a wonderful idea. Look forward to, listening to that, learning more about that in the near future. Is it for this year, or is a project for next year?
I think by December we might release some stuff, but it's mostly for 2022.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, anything you want to? Can you play just random, just the alap like we do alap improvisation? Sure. It'll be great to have a darshan, a didar of the instrument. It'll be fantastic. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Fantastic. The idea of breath, these instruments are, I'm so jealous. Even Thomas Indemule's, conversation about the oboe was just mesmerizing as well. Great to have a closer look on these instruments.
Yes. Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you for taking time out, and I really appreciate your your kindness. And my best wishes
Likewise.
really to your projects, and I hope you attain a lot of success. And
Thank you so much.
yeah, and I hope to. Well, you already owe me a cup of coffee, as we discussed earlier.
Yes.
I
Yes.
appreciated earlier, so we'll see if you get to offer that to me in Delhi or in Brooklyn.
Yes. I hope so. Maybe both.
Yes. Then we'll have to split the idea of the coffee. Then I'll have to. But it was wonderful. Thank you so much, and my greetings to your Red Baraatis
Yes, of
and
course.
your Chardi Kala album collaborators and contributors, and compliments to your partner. I mean, she's done amazing work. I appreciated that. Those. You wanted to begin with the Mitar Pyare Nu, but I wanted to end with it.
Yeah, there you go. It all worked out.
Yeah, it worked out. It's sometimes you do the reverse order.
That's right.
But I enjoyed those flowers and the visuals, the very quiet, the movements. You standing next to the beach, the frame that was very well done. So do tell her that I particularly enjoyed that.
Yeah, I'll pass that on. Absolutely.
Thank you, Sonny. It was a
Okay, thank you.
pleasure. Yes. Bye bye.
Okay, bye. Have a good one. Thanks, everyone.
So, friends, that was my conversation with Sonny Singh. I hope you've enjoyed that some. I enjoyed it plenty some. And the next Baiṭhak, if I may, let me see if I can quickly find the poster. I forgot to cue it up for you guys. It doesn't take too long for me, though, as long as I have the things at hand. I'll be in conversation with Professor Virinder Kalra from, let's see if I can have that window. Yeah, here we have. Dr. Vidurjit Singh Kalra is a professor of sociology. Excuse me. Teaches sociology at the University of Warwick, United Kingdom. And 6 p.m. on Sunday, it'll be April 25th. He'll be joining live from Birmingham, England. And I hope you'll be able to mark your calendar very kindly so. And I'll look forward to listening to him along with you. I'll join you guys and let's get together this Sunday. दोस्तों ਐਤਵਾਰ ਨੂੰ 25 ਅਪ੍ਰੈਲ ਦੀ ਤਾਰੀਖ ਹੈ ਮੇਰੇ ਭਤੀਜੇ ਗੁਰਲਿਵ ਦੀ ਸ਼ਾਦੀ ਵੀ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਦਿਨ ਅਨਫੋਰਚੂਨੇਟਲੀ ਮੈਂ ਕੋਵਿਡ ਦੇ ਕਰਫਿਊ 'ਚ ਬੈਠਾ ਹੋਇਆ ਅਨਏਬਲ ਟੂ ਅਟੈਂਡ ਮੈਂ ਵਾਅਦਾ ਕੀਤਾ ਸੀ ਗੁਰਲਿਵ ਨੂੰ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਗਾਵਾਂਗਾ ਸ਼ਾਦੀ 'ਤੇ ਹੁਣ ਮੇਰੇ ਭਤੀਜੇ ਦਾ ਵਿਆਹ ਹੋਵੇ ਤਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਨੱਚਾਂ ਵੀ ਨਾ ਇਹ ਤਾਂ ਸੰਭਵ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਪਰ ਦੇਖੋ ਮੈਂ ਹਾਲੇ ਫਸਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ I don't know if I'm able to sneak out. It's curfew. We are in curfew, and there's a chance कि curfew extend होएगा. ते पर 25 ਨੂੰ ਮੈਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸਰ ਕਾਲਰਾ ਹੋਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਮੇਰਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਪੁਰਾਣਾ ਸੰਵਾਦ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਆਸ ਹੈ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਮਾਂ ਕੱਢੋਗੇ ਐਤਵਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਇਕੱਠੇ ਹੋਵਾਂਗੇ ਆਸ ਹੈ ਅੱਜ ਦੀ ਬੈਠਕ ਵੀ ਬੜੀ ਅੱਛੀ ਲੱਗੀ ਹੋਏਗੀ सनी सिंह तो बड़ी आसा ने बड़ा ही मज़ेदार काम है ਉਹਦਾ और ट्रंपेट बजांदा है तो मैं ਚਾਹਿਆ ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਟਰੰਪਟ ਬਾਰੇ ਸਮਝਾਂਗੇ, ਆਪਾਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਕੱਠੇ ਰਲ ਕੇ ਦੇਖੀਏ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਜਿੰਨੀ ਕੁ ਮੇਰੀ ਅੰਗਰੇਜ਼ੀ ਟਾਈਟ ਹੈ, ਉਹਦੀ ਸਨੀ ਦੀ ਉਨੀ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਟਾਈਟ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ। ਸੋ ਉਹਨੇ ਫਿਰ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਵਾਰਤਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸੌਖਾ ਰਹੂੰਗਾ ਜੇ ਅੰਗਰੇਜ਼ੀ 'ਚ ਹੋਵੇ। ਪਰ ਦੋਸਤੋ, ਮੈਨੂੰ ਆਸ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਅੱਜ ਦੀ ਮੁਲਾਕਾਤ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਭਲੀ ਲੱਗੀ ਹੋਏਗੀ। ਅਤੇ ਕੋਵਿਡ-19 ਦਾ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਅੱਗੇ ਡਾਂਗ ਛੋਟਾ ਤਾਂ ਕਰਦਾ ਰਿਹਾ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਆਦਤਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਮਜਬੂਰ ਹੋ ਹਟਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ। ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿੰਨੇ ਜਣਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਮੈਂ ਜਾਣਨਾ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕੋਵਿਡ ਹੋਇਆ ਹੈ, ਔਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬਾਜ਼ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਂਦੇ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹਟਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ। ਮਿਟੀਗੇਸ਼ਨ, ਸੰਜਮ ਰੱਖਣਾ, ਕਾਲ ਕਰਨੀ। ਔਰ ਮੈਂ ਅੱਗੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਸੀ ਕੁਛ ਮਹੀਨੇ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਕਿ ਜੇ ਇੰਡੀਅਨ ਸਟ੍ਰੇਨ ਜੇ ਬਣੀ ਨਾ ਤਾਂ ਇਹ ਕਹਿਰ ਮਚਾਊਗੀ। ਅਤੇ ਹੁਣ ਨੱਚੋ ਬਹਿ ਕੇ ਹੁਣ ਕਰਫਿਊ ਲਾ ਕੇ ਬੈਠੇ ਹਾਂ, ਦੇਖੋ। ਸੋ ਥੋੜ੍ਹੀ ਹੋਸ਼ ਕਰੋ, ਬਾਹੋਸ਼ੀ ਵਿਖਾਓ। ਨਿਊਯਾਰਕ ਟਾਈਮਸ ਨੇ ਤਾਂ ਹਫ਼ਤਾ 10 ਦਿਨ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਕਰਨ ਲੱਗਾ ਸੀ ਮੋਨੋਲੋਗ, ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਕੋਵਿਡ-19 ਦੇ ਵੀ ਕਰੀਏ। ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਛੱਡੋ ਪਰਾਂ, ਦੁਨੀਆ ਨੂੰ ਖਾਣ ਦਿਓ ਖਸਮਾਂ ਨੂੰ, ਮੈਂ ਤਾਂ ਖਸਮਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਖਾਣਾ ਹੀ ਰਹਿਣਾ। ਸੋ ਮੈਂ ਰਹਿਣ ਦਿੱਤਾ। ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਚਲੋ ਹੁਣ ਸਾਰੇ ਪੜ੍ਹਦੇ ਹੀ, ਹੁਣ ਕਹਿਰ ਜੇ ਆਇਆ। ਅਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਅੱਗੇ ਕਾਫੀ ਲੈਕਚਰ ਝਾੜਿਆ ਕੋਵਿਡ ਦੇ ਬਾਬਤ, ਕਿੰਨੇ 47-48 ਮੋਨੋਲੋਗਸ ਕੀਤੇ ਸੀ। ਇੱਕ ਤਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬੜਾ ਵਾਇਰਲ ਕੀਤਾ, ਕਿੰਨੇ 10 ਮਿਲੀਅਨ ਤੋਂ ਟੱਪ ਗਿਆ ਸੀਗਾ। ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਯਾਰਾਨਾਦ ਵਰਚੁਅਲ ਬੈਠਕ ਸੀਰੀਜ਼ ਹੈ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸ਼ੇਅਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ, ਨਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੰਨੀ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਹੋ। ਇਹ ਅਨਪੜ੍ਹਾਂ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਹੈ, ਮੇਰੇ ਵਰਗਿਆਂ ਲਈ। ਇਹ ਪੜ੍ਹੇ ਲਿਖਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਸਮਝ ਕੇ ਇਹ ਨਾ ਹੋਵੇ ਕਿ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਯੂਨੀਵਰਸਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਕੋਈ ਲੈਕਚਰ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਤਾਂ ਉੱਥੇ 10 ਜਣੇ ਬੈਠੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ। ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ, ਇਹ ਆਮ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਲਈ ਹੈ, ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਮਝ ਆਵੇ। ਸੋ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵੰਡਿਆ ਖੰਡਿਆ ਕਰੋ, ਆਪਣੀ ਭੂਰੀ ਵੱਟ ਕੇ ਬੈਠੇ ਹੋ, ਭੂਰੀ ਵੱਟ ਕੇ ਬੈਠੇ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਹੋ, ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸ਼ੇਅਰ ਕਰਿਆ ਕਰੋ ਆਪਣੇ ਗਰੁੱਪਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ। ਔਰ ਮੈਂ ਪੇਟਰੀਓਨ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਜੁਆਇਨ ਕੀਤਾ। ਜੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਸ਼ਿਰਕਤ ਪਾਉਣੀ ਹੈ, 200, 400, 500, 1000 ਰੁਪਇਆ, ਇੱਦਾਂ ਛੋੜੇ ਵੀ $5 ਵੀ ਪਾਉਣੇ ਨੇ। ਇਸ ਸ਼ਿਰਕਤ ਦੇ ਯਾਰਨਾਦ ਬੈਠਕ ਸੀਰੀਜ਼ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਥੀ ਬਣੋ। ਇਹ ਪਤਾ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕਿੰਨੇ 1.5, 2, 3 ਲੱਖ ਰੁਪਇਆ ਮਹੀਨੇ ਦਾ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਹੈ ਸਿਰਫ ਪੇਸ਼ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ। ਅਨਾਦ ਫਾਊਂਡੇਸ਼ਨ ਨੂੰ ਖਰਚਣਾ ਪੈਂਦਾ। ਔਰ ਫਿਰ ਇਹ ਫਾਊਂਡੇਸ਼ਨ ਕੋਈ ਪ੍ਰੋਫਿਟ ਮੇਕਿੰਗ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀ, ਕੋਈ ਐਡਵਰਟਾਈਜ਼ਮੈਂਟਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਂਦੀਆਂ। ਸੋ ਇਹ ਹਿੱਸੇਦਾਰ ਬਣੀਦਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ। ਵਿਰਸੇ ਦੀ ਸਾਂਭ ਸੰਭਾਲ ਲਈ, ਵਿਰਸੇ ਦੀ ਭਾਲ ਸੰਭਾਲ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਉਹਦੀ ਸ਼ਿਰਕਤ ਪਾਈ ਦੀ ਹੈ। ਉਹ ਮੈਂ ਪੇਟਰੀਓਨ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਾਧਨ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹਦੇ 'ਤੇ ਬਣੋ। ਜਾਂ ਅਨਾਦ ਫਾਊਂਡੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਅਕਾਊਂਟਸ ਨੇ, ਅਨਾਦ ਫਾਊਂਡੇਸ਼ਨ ਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦਿਓ ਅਤੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਟੈਕਸ ਐਗਜ਼ੰਪਟ ਜਿਹੜੀ ATG ਵਾਲੀ ਰਸੀਦ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਲਓ। ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਨਾਦ USA ਨੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਸਟੂਡੈਂਟਸ ਨੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਬਣਾਇਆ ਹੋਇਆ, ਜਿਹਨੇ 501C ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲੈਣਾ ਹੋਵੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਉੱਥੇ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟਸ ਉੱਥੇ ਵੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਅਤੇ ਉਹ ਇੱਕੋ ਗੱਲ ਹੈ, ਕੋਈ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ। ਅਤੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਆਸ ਹੈ ਆਪਾਂ ਐਤਵਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਇਕੱਠੇ ਹੋਵਾਂਗੇ ਅਤੇ ਸਾਥੀ ਬਣੋ। ਗੱਲਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਤਾਂ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਕੁਛ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ, ਕੋਈ ਜੋਗ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ। ਇਹਦੇ ਲਈ ਤਾਂ ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਮਿਹਨਤ ਕਰਨੀ ਪੈਂਦੀ, ਮਸ਼ੱਕਤ ਕਰਨੀ ਪੈਂਦੀ, ਔਰ ਸੰਗਤੀ ਰੂਪ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਾਰਜ ਕਰਨਾ ਪੈਂਦਾ। ਇੰਡੀਵਿਜੂਅਲ ਐਫਰਟਸ ਨਾਲ ਬਹੁਤ ਕੁਛ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਜੇ ਇੰਡੀਵਿਜੂਅਲ ਐਫਰਟ ਵੀ ਸੁੱਚੀ ਤਾਬੀਅਤ ਨਾਲ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੋਵੇ। ਮੈਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਨੇ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਕੀਤੀ, ਇੰਡੀਵਿਜੂਅਲ ਐਫਰਟ ਹੀ ਹੈ ਨਾ। ਕਦੋਂ ਕੋਈ ਪਬਲਿਕ ਜਾਂ ਪ੍ਰਾਈਵੇਟ ਕੋਈ ਪਾਰਟਨਰਸ਼ਿਪ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਹੀ, ਇਕੱਲਿਆਂ ਕੀਤਾ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਨੇ। ਪਰ ਉਹ ਫਿਰ ਜੇ ਇਕੱਲੇ ਹੀ ਕਰਨਾ ਸੀ, ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਵਿਰਸਾ ਢਾਤਾ ਹੋਵੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਵਿਰਸਾ ਸਾਹਮਣਾ ਹੋਵੇ। ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਤਾਂ ਕੂੜਾ ਕਰਕੇ ਸਿੱਟਿਆ, ਤੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਹੀ ਕਬਾੜਖਾਨਾ ਇਕੱਠਾ ਕੀਤਾ। ਇਹ ਤਾਂ ਤਾਬੀਅਤ ਹੈ। ਸੋ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੋਸ਼ ਕਰੋ, ਬਾਹੋਸ਼ ਹੋਵੋ। ਅਤੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਆਸ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਬਸੰਤ ਫਿਰ ਆਏਗੀ, ਬਹਾਰ ਫਿਰ ਆਏਗੀ, ਅਤੇ ਗੀਤ ਮਲਹਾਰ ਦੇ ਗਾ ਨੱਚਣ ਦਾ ਵੇਲਾ ਫਿਰ ਆਏਗਾ। ਮਾਨਸਿਕ ਅਤੇ ਰੂਹਾਨੀ ਕਬਜ਼ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਿਸੇ ਦਾ ਭਲਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਇਆ। ਉਹ ਬਿਮਾਰੀ ਦੀ ਨਿਸ਼ਾਨੀ ਹੈ, ਖੇੜੇ ਦੀ ਖੁਸ਼ੀ ਦੀ ਨਿਸ਼ਾਨੀ ਨਹੀਂ, ਭਲੇ ਦੀ ਨਿਸ਼ਾਨੀ ਨਹੀਂ, ਉਹ ਮੁਬਾਰਕ ਦੀ ਨਿਸ਼ਾਨੀ ਨਹੀਂ, ਉਹ ਸ਼ਰਾਪ ਦੀ ਨਿਸ਼ਾਨੀ ਹੋਇਆ ਕਰਦੀ ਹੈ। ਔਰ ਸ਼ਰਾਪ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿੰਨਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪ ਫੈਲਾਇਆ, ਉਹ ਸ਼ੀਸ਼ੇ ਵੱਲ ਛਾਤੀ ਮਾਰ ਕੇ ਦੇਖ ਲਓ, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਮਾਪ ਅਤੇ ਦੰਡ ਦਿਖ ਜਾਣਗੇ ਜੋ ਇੰਤਜ਼ਾਰ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। ਆਗਿਆ ਲੈਣਾ। ਖੁਦਾ ਹਾਫਿਜ਼। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਨਮਸਕਾਰ। A very good night, very good day to wherever you are. Sat Kartar.